Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The board is returning from a brief recess. The next item on our agenda is discussion of LED streetlights. Mr. Suso, do you want to begin?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the board is aware, we've had a number of discussions with the board about the opportunity afforded on the conversion of the town's town-owned streetlights to LEDs, LED technology, and initial discussions go back to October of 2012, perhaps even a little bit earlier than that, actually, in 2012. But at that time, some test lights for demonstration LED fixtures were installed, and the board was advised those being on Main Street, and also I believe it was Seacoast Shores as well. Following that review and feedback on those pilot demonstrations, the board in June of 2013 had a presentation on the proposed streetlight conversion, which was being offered by Cape Light Compact to municipalities throughout the Cape. On June 17th of last year, the Falmouth Board of Selectmen discussed this proposal further and voted unanimously to participate in the conversion project and authorize a contract with Cape Light Compact. We did receive significant publicity on that, including from the Falmouth Enterprise. That agreement was executed as the board had ordained in July of 2013, and over the past several weeks we've had at least a couple different presentations from Mr. Kevin Galligan, and also involving town engineer Peter McConerty, regarding the conversion and further discussion on the installation of some additional test lighting in a couple areas. And in addition, we've had one or two meetings with interested residents that have had questions about this, and we have asked, as the board will recall from the last time we met, we asked Mr. Galligan if he would come back after installing the latest test lights to speak a little bit further with the board, and we appreciate him being here tonight. I believe he's also joined by Maggie Downey of Cape Light Compact and others. Ron Swag, of course. Ron is the board's representative to the Cape Light Compact, and the board is familiar with his multiple reports back to the board on activities of various items by the Cape Light Compact. So we appreciate the opportunity to update the board and discuss this a little bit further. As a reminder, the track that we are on, based on the review and approvals received to date, would have installation of those streetlights to be converted beginning in the month of May and continuing, as I recall, through mid-June. That is the current track, and I would defer, Mr. Chairman, to you or other members of the board if you would like us to have Mr. Galligan give some additional comments and update since your last meeting. Happy to have him do that as well.
Hey, if you don't mind, Mr. Galligan, I know the board had asked a few things of you. If you could report on those for us, and maybe the board has some questions for you.
Happy to. Kevin Galligan, Program Manager with Cape Light Compact. Great to be with you again. As your town administrator reported at your request, thankfully we did have, through the demonstration phase of the project, that 3500K leadway type fixture available. It did take us a little while logistics to get things coordinated, because we also wanted to respond to your request to put two shields that the town engineer did direct us in terms of those locations. So those finally did get completed and installed, with adjustments made as well to the lumen output settings on those lights along Quisset Ave on last Tuesday, March 18th. I drove out there, took a look at them, and again, I just would, thank the board for, the consideration they're giving to this project. I can also say that the progress of this project has gone extremely well. It really has been, with the winter conditions that we've all experienced, hopefully not to be repeated, we've really seen wonderful installation work by all the crews. These are union shop laborers that are doing a fabulous job. They've got this down to a science. We have seen absolutely no complaints across all of the towns. There are calls that we've gotten from 7 residents that, again, we've offered and will follow through with the 60-day adjustment period after any lights are up, so we got them right. But to date, things have gone extremely well. I, again, thank Julian and Heather for arranging the meeting with the neighbors that I was happy to participate in. I think it really provided us a good education of the development of the project that took place. I know there may be some further concerns or suggestions, but I would just remind the board, as Julian indicated, we followed through on the contractual commitments we offered to you, that you committed to relative to the schedule. We want these lights up for you on the schedule you expected, what I made commitments to you to do, and that's what we want to follow through on. Again, I'd reinforce there are adjustments that certainly can be made, and like I said the last time I was here at the outset, we want everyone to be pleased with the lights, including if through the board's direction or the town engineer there want to be any de-lamping that's occurred. This came up on Friday. Should some folks say, I really want my street darkened, that's actually an energy efficiency improvement, and it's a very good one because you're taking a kilowatt off the grid that will never be plugged in again. So if those could be considered between now and when we get contractors mobilized, we'd be happy to make those changes between now and May. But that is the schedule we're on. Again, I would think you may want to, as your past practice has been, hear other comments, and I'll listen to anything that comes up. I also am thankful to have Clint Chuckle, our engineer, who looked after the development of the investment grade audit that presented the scope on the project. So he's here from Siemens as well. So we'll all listen, and if there are further responses you'd like from us, we're happy to answer, as well as to you if you have any right now.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board? Some observations that I do want to make, that the agreement that the board signed this past year, that we don't have, and it is in, I believe it's in one of the documents that was provided to all of you. Essentially, we can't back out. We've got to make a decision and move ahead with this, because we did, as noted, enter into a contractual agreement with the Cape Light Compact. We do have in writing, and I hope you all have this in your packet, but a recommendation from Mr. McConerty to proceed with the project using the 4,000 Kelvin Cobra headlights. And we also have a write-up from the Falmouth Police Department, Edward Dunn. He had some officers check and report on their feedback, or provide some feedback regarding the LED lights. And I do believe that you all should have a copy of that in your packet as well. And it was generally positive. That there was some concern about the reflective nature of the LED lighting during snowfall, but at other times it seemed to be more effectively lighting the road. Radius was better defined by the LED light in comparison to the high-pressure sodium light. So we do have some positive feedback from a few officers, actually, as well as individual emails that were provided to us. Questions and comments from the public? I know that this was a considerable issue for some folks in that neighborhood. Anyone? Ms. Bumpus?
Catherine Bumpus, Precinct 1. I've been moderately involved in this. I've talked to a number of people about it. I've had some comments. I've had some meetings. I've been to a couple meetings with Peter and Julian and Heather and Kevin Galligan, and I appreciate everybody's time and energy on it. I feel as if a lot of people have tried to offer comment on this and haven't gotten very far. And I think one of the things that really is incumbent on the board, and it is because it is nobody else's job in the town of Falmouth, to think about the aesthetics. We are changing the way the town of Falmouth, the entire town of Falmouth, is going to look at night. That's a big decision. It really matters how it's made. It is as important as the money saving that we'll get. It is as important as the energy conservation that we'll get. I think there could have been an opportunity to make this an even better project had the community started kicking and screaming earlier. I realize now we're a long way down the road, and this is a really hard time for you guys to be hearing that there are serious concerns about this project. And I don't envy that you're sitting there hearing about serious concerns at this moment. There are still opportunities to do this a little bit differently because we're Falmouth. And one of the things that Falmouth has worked hard to do is keep Falmouth not the same as every place else. We don't necessarily want to be the same as every place else. The 4,000 Kelvin lights, while they aren't the 3,500s that were specified in the contract, are actually better when they're turned down all the way than the 3,500s. That was a surprise. We discovered that when they were up. You still can't side shield them. The shielding only goes to the side, to the roadway, to the people's houses. It doesn't prevent the glare, which is a challenge. It's something that will be a continuing problem for some people. I'm less bothered by it than some others. Even though they did make an effort, Cape Light Compact went out and did the adjustments that were asked for, it didn't solve all the problems. One of the things that Falmouth has that other places don't have are these 188 Admiral Hat fixtures that were preserved in the historic districts. They were converted to compact fluorescence a number of years ago, which was a good energy savings. They have side shielding. They work well. You don't get the glare. One of the things that you all might consider is trying to preserve them and doing a serious test about looking at whether or not they can be upgraded to a LED light bulb in these fixtures, because they're just a screw-in light bulb. You can take any other light bulb you want and put it in. They used to have incandescent. That could be an improvement, or they could remain the compact fluorescents that they are now, which are quite efficient. There have been opportunities for public input. You'll hear that there was a survey monkey, that people didn't respond and people didn't react to this. You all are very aware of this process. I consider myself relatively well-informed. I did not know that there was a survey out on the LED lighting. There are a lot of people that just weren't aware that it was going on. It's too bad there wasn't more outreach. Can't do anything about it now. If you're looking at preserving the Admiral Hat lights and doing a real test with them and seeing if you can get an LED that works in them, do a real test and do a lot of outreach on it if you can, because they are mostly in historic districts where there are very active communities. I know Kevin is very concerned, you've brought up a couple of times about the lighting in the business districts and other areas. I don't believe that there is any place in town where when they replace these with the LED lights, anybody will think there is less light than there is currently. It's one of the things that reading background information from all the communities that this has happened in, we're gonna look like Los Angeles. Los Angeles now has these LED lights everywhere. Everybody's reaction is, it's brighter, there's more light, even though they're using less energy and the value of the light is different. But everybody's reaction is that the LEDs are brighter. So I think that you all need to, we're in a position where the process is going to go forward. I hope that there are some things we can do to protect what we have and keep Falmouth a little bit different and a little bit better than some other places. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. Nancy Hayward, West Falmouth. I would make a quick comment about a statement Kevin Galligan made about an adjustment. An adjustment, he said, that could be made would be going from too much light to no light. That is not an adjustment. I will now try to stick more directly to the lights. What we're talking about is LED lights. For some reason, and I have missed some steps in this, I didn't do any survey, and somehow I missed a survey. LED lights come in all kinds of sizes and shapes. And what we're being told is that we have a choice of two kinds of cobra-headed LED lights of fairly high, and I guess the term is Kelvin. Apparently, we are now committed to this from this July 2013 contract, which you mentioned. I will echo something that was just said. There is no reason why we have to have compact fluorescent lights in the historic districts. There are perfectly ordinary light bulb shaped LED lights. I have one in the lamp beside my bed. If you want LED lights, these wonderful helmet-shaped reflectors, which are in the historic district, can have LED light bulbs put in them. I will very briefly discuss my personal argument with the electric company, because in 1988, I was one of the people that signed up to pay for the electric light on the electric pole in the front of my house at 65 Chase Road in West Falmouth. And in the fall of 2012, that light burnt out. I had been paying for that light since 1988. They put up a big cobra-headed light there, and I stopped paying for that light, and I'm currently having a go-around about the light that currently is up there. Someone called me on the phone about 5 days ago and talked to me about the street lights. And I went out to several of the locations that have LED street lights. I had been, when Mr. Braga was a selectman, there had been LED lights put in the parking area at the Morris Pond School. At that time, I had gone and looked at those LED lights, and the word has already been said. They're bright. On Friday, I went around and I looked at the LED lights in front of the recreation center, and they are bright. And because I was going to MBL to a talk, I looked at the lights on Sippowisset Road. And there are several locations where there are a few of those lights. They looked like smaller LED lights to me, but they are bright. if it's Los Angeles we're going to look like, then I guess it's Los Angeles because those lights are bright. One of my questions is, there are lots on Sippowisset Road, there are a lot of the lights with the helmet-type reflector. On West Falmouth Highway in the Historic District, there is a lot of lights which still have this helmet reflector on them. There have been some of those that have been replaced with these big cobra-headed lights. Is what I'm hearing that you're going to take away those helmet fixtures?
Could we?
Or has that even had any consideration? And if you have to go to LEDs, remember you can get perfectly normal light bulbs that are LED light bulbs.
I recall there was some discussion about keeping those
It's up for discussion.
alone, that we don't necessarily have to pursue that right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we could
Or is
leave
it
those.
going to be a case of an adjustment is going to mean no lights on West Falmouth Highway?
There will be lights.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Go ahead,
My name is Dick Keeler, and I have copies of this if you want them now, or should give them till later.
Might be useful now. Is it something we've seen before, or is it new information? If it's new information to the board, the sooner you can give it to us, the better. Thank you.
Anyway, my name is Dick Kaler, and I'm on the Energy Committee, but I do not represent the Energy Committee because you can get deep trouble for not getting permission from the whole board. So I'm speaking for myself. Well, I'm going to speak for I probably should shut up because it looks like you've already accepted the light that I want you to use, which is the LED lights from Cree that we have samples of, the 4,000K ones. Well, let me just speak to the advantage. I want you to compare the advantages and disadvantages of these new LED lights. First advantage is there's a low price. It's free to Falmouth. There's lower power used running these than the high-pressure sodium lights, so that makes it cheaper to operate. There's they had two models, standard and high efficiency. The high efficiency model runs on, it puts out 38% more light than the standard model for each of the switch settings. That may be a disadvantage. They're lower maintenance because they run so long, they run 100,000 hours before you have to replace them. That's 23 or 24 years. So the man that fixes them doesn't have to come by as often, so you get charged less for that. The other advantage is they're new. It means they're beginning of their operational life. They have field adjustable wattage. In other words, you can adjust the amount of light you get out of them from about, anyway, it goes from, I think about 30 watts, about 15 watts up to 50 watts. The light is white, which I find an advantage because looking at you here, you probably have the same color lights up here that are on the road. And so people look normal, not orange. The white light shows normal colors much better than the orange light. There's no, despite a letter to the editor, Enterprise, there's no up glare. That is for a dark, it gives you a dark sky. All the light emitting parts of the light are above the bottom edge of the light. So there's no way the light can go out past that edge and then go up. So it gives you the dark sky condition. Here's the pitch for the same lights throughout town would give a more orderly appearance rather than a ragged appearance where there are two types of lights intermingled. The other type is the helmet style. What else? Also, more illumination. I'm for more illumination because I don't see that well at night. So if there's more light there, I would like it better. And more illumination increases safety for vehicular traffic and pedestrians. Now, there's some disadvantages of this model LED light that we're getting. It's glare. You can see the bulb. Well, you can see the bulb of the orange light as well, high-pressure sodium ones. And the light doesn't blind you if you don't stare at it. Normally, one doesn't look directly at a bulb. The sun looks bright if you look at it. We have to put that up with that all day long. There's other problems with the street lights that maybe you could address. One of them is some of the lights are irregularly spaced, or perhaps very irregularly spaced on Falmouth roads. You see a light, and then there's a long gap, and then you see another light. Maybe you could sort of, when you take one down, you could put it somewhere else, instead of waiting until already installed and have to redo that again. You still have to, I think you still have to pay.
That's going to be outside the scope of this project, so.
I know that's a disadvantage. One could save money by doing that. I have another question here. There's this argument about the lights. One is, are we arguing about Admiral hat lights versus LED lights, or high-pressure sodium lights versus LED lights? I'm not quite clear on that.
I think there are a few concerns.
I have to know what to argue against. I have to know what it is that you're arguing against.
There have been a few concerns raised about the color and the brightness of the LED lights versus, some of it may simply be folks are not used to the whiter, brighter light of the LED versus the yellower light of the high-pressure sodium. But there's also concerns about the Admiral hat lights in the historic districts.
Yeah, well, that's a question. Where are the historical districts? Because
I think Tom might be able to answer the question, considering he's holding one. So I think there's one here tonight.
Because these lights, they seem to be here and there in Woods Hole. And you go along Woods Hole Road up to the hospital lights, and there are a fair number of mostly helmet lights. And I wonder, where is the historic district? Woods Hole Road is a road I would like to see being better lit, where it can be, where it's allowed, historical point. They also have these helmet lights along West Falmouth Highway and North Falmouth Highway, with a few high-pressure sodium sprinkled in there. I presume they were replacement lights. I don't know. And there's Shore Street and Falmouth. Well, Woods Hole Road is the main one I would like to see having normal LED lights. And I'd like to also point out that the purpose of the street lights is to see the road, where the road is leading, avoiding hitting somebody with a vehicle. And that's better if you have more light. If you just wanted to make it attractive at night, to me that's not sufficient criteria. And I want to point out the replacement street lights use the same utility poles and light hangers as the present street lights. So that part is unchanged. Nobody can argue about, oh, we're still using the old street light hangers, because they're the ones that everybody wants. And that's, by the way, I'd like to point out that Nancy Hayward gave me a call a couple of years ago saying, my husband told me to look at LED lights. If you're planning to replace lights, they should be LED lights. And now they're too bright for her, so I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Renshaw, and from Woods Hole, and you can address me as the Admiral, preferably salute at the same time. This is one of the shades from these old Admiral hat fixtures. This is an entire fixture. They were built probably in the 50s or the 60s. This one's 60, 70 years old. There's nothing about this that couldn't be repaired
Tom,
and
if you could
continued to be used.
address the board
Oh,
and speak
excuse
to the
me.
microphone so the folks at home can hear you.
What I feel that these are, as well as a perfectly functional piece of straightforward gear, is a standard of what the light could look like. We saw Kevin's examples of these XLP1s or whatever they are. These are very brash lights. They have these 5 of these luminaires. They have no diffusing shield. They have very poor shading to the side, so they glare in your eyes when you approach them. And presumably when you're driving down the road, you are looking ahead. That's where it is. So you will see it in your visual field, as we all know. I don't know, you didn't make any comment, but I know there's been a lot of citizens who went and looked at those Quistit lights, partly at my urging, and that they sent word to the selectmen and to the town managers. So is that in somewhere in the testimony here, or you are aware that there's been considerable reaction to the idea?
Yeah, I have received some emails to that
I just
effect,
want
yes.
to turn this on so you'll see what it's like. This is 3,000 Kelvin bulb. 35,000 hours. You can stand to look at it. That's 3,000 Kelvin. What we're talking about on these ones is
Tom.
4,000.
To the microphone so the folks at home can hear you.
This is 3,000 Kelvin. I wanted there to be a standard. We were arguing about, 6 and 7. You have to get down. 3,500 is about the edge of what you can stand to have in your eyes. And this is my opinion, but I think a lot of people will agree. If you go to the literature, if you go online and you Google streetlight, LED streetlight conversions, you will find that every case, Seattle, LA, Pittsburgh, the overwhelming reaction is they're great, but glare is a problem. And it's not been addressed by the engineers and the manufacturers, partly because they're trying to push the engineering limits. They're trying to get the most watts out of it, so if they do something that makes it not so glaring and bright, it's going to make the lumen meter read lower, and they won't get the same hypothetical savings. In reality, as I think Catherine made the point very well, if we take the lowest, the 15 watt setting on those 4,000 Kelvin bulbs, we're going to find that they are plenty bright, like that. And if they aren't enough, we should turn them up a little bit. But we should start at the lowest possible setting. I really don't think there's much choice but to go with this program. I hate to say it, but I think the options open to us, as far as the understandings were that we all had, was that we agreed to the contract. We hoped there would be some opportunity to make a choice about the color temperature. In fact, they specified 3,500 in the contract. And the other option is to opt out. And the opting out would mean losing this opportunity and taking more time to possibly come up with another similar program, because this program is supported by federal and Cape Light Compact and all these other ways that they fund them. Anyway, what they're offering us is a energy conservation program that is funded by commercial ratepayers, intended to substantially reduce our streetlight budget and save energy, and including a maintenance contract with Siemens. This describes, doesn't it, what's going on here? This program has the potential of resulting in an overall improvement in the streetlight in Falmouth if the choice of fixtures and bulbs is made wisely with flexibility for future improvements. I really think that even if we do go with these, we ought to consider maybe we can gradually improve them over time. Maybe we can find some test areas. After meeting with town managers and engineer and Kevin Galligan of Cape Light Compact, it has occurred to us to look for the best outcome that optimizes the benefits and minimizes the downside of this LED streetlight conversion program. Given the time limitations and pressure to commit to this program, I might support the installation of these Cree XSP1 fixtures as being the most expedient at the moment, if the following understandings could be included in negotiations between the town and Cape Light Compact. It would be better if there were time to really research the availability of other fixture options, and that might be result if we were able to switch to phase 5 rather than having to be in this present phase. In our meeting, Kevin explained that, well, that would cost us because they'd have to alter the contract. So there would be a cost in postponing it. But if we did that, we'd have until the end of May to make the decision about what fixtures we used. Then that leads to the question, is there another choice? Well, within the ones they presented us, it doesn't seem to be. And an engineer from Hui who came to our meeting talked to me tonight, and he said we got that list of the design criteria of it. There's hundreds and hundreds of lights, but it didn't look to him like there were any that weren't going to have this same problem. So it's sort of endemic, and I think we're being sold the technology of today, and if we could wait a little, we'd get something better, because there's a glaring need for something better than this. At the very least, we need another week. I hope you don't make the decision tonight. I hope we can meet again with Kevin and with the concerned citizens and engineers and town engineer and so on, and talk about where we can go. And then I believe you have a selectmen's meeting next Monday. I would urge you to wait until then to make a final decision. But if we had to make a decision right now, I would hope that these things were included or agreed to by the Cape Light Compact. We'd install these, I'm calling them the heads. There's the fixture, and it has luminaires in it that are wired in at the factory, but which can be changed if they fail, or if we came up with something better, they could be exchanged. So we install these heads with the knowledge that they can be bench fitted with other luminaires, and provide us with plenty of spare heads so that we can come up with sample luminaires. We being, I'm saying, this working group of concerned citizens that have offered their help and want to help make this come out right. So we could have some tests. We'd have some extra fixtures. All it would mean would change in the luminaire and going up, and that would require a charge. I would hope that might be part of the maintenance contract, that if we came up with the replacement test luminaires, that the maintenance contract could cover that. So I'm asking for that. The adjustable power option and the ranges, there's 2 or 3 different power ranges. The one that they're proposing, or that I believe that was in their audit, was the 15 to 25 watt fixture for the residential and low populated areas. And as I say, that one at the lowest setting is plenty bright, but let's at least start at the low setting, and if people say that's not bright enough, add it. That way we're drawing the least power and getting the cheapest return for what we're installing. I don't believe that we're talking about anything other than the 4,000, so I don't have to go into talking about the 5,700, do I?
No, you're correct.
I think we're clear of that one. So that's very good. And it's also clearly true that the 3,500 option is only offered in a fixture that can't be turned down. So it's not going to give us a benefit. My fight against glare is a combination of the intensity, that is the power going into it, the brightness, the color temperature, which has a big effect, and also the shading and diffusing if that's possible. But all of these things take away from the hypothetical efficiency, and that's why they're not done. Because these things are better, but not that much better than the high-pressure sodium and the other new modern lights. So that it's an engineering fight trying to convince people that this is going to save us this much money, and every little penny, it makes the case stronger. But it's at an expense. It is an expense of how we perceive our world out there. I would like to see somebody, preferably Cape Light Compact or the maintenance, provide a budget for this test program under our management so that we can come up with experimental luminaires and ponder this problem and see how we can make it better. The program would provide test bulbs for the maintenance contract, and would provide the test bulbs, and the maintenance contract would provide the boom chuck and exchange the test heads. The working group, including the optical engineers that we've had, they were at our meeting. Those guys really got it. They really understand what it's all about and why they're giving us such a problem. These are made to the individual LEDs are arrayed and lensed and reflected so that they get the widest possible ink, and that's why we're getting this bright light in our eyes. We don't really know why. These things are built for cities, and they're built for regular spacing so that it's continuous lighting. That is not the case in Falmouth, except possibly on Main Street. We have occasional lights that dispel the gloom, and hopefully there's not too much contrast between light and dark that's blinding. So that's all that. The program would provide test bulbs. Maintenance contract would provide the boom truck and exchange the heads. The working group would provide expertise and assistance. And then there's the private lights. You brought up you have a private light. I pay for 2 in Woods Hole, and there are a total of roughly 90 private lights in the town of Falmouth. And we have been providing lighting for the town at no expense to the town. But we can't deal with the electric company and convince them to put the compact fluorescents in our bulbs. So I'd like to, Kevin clearly is able to talk to these people and make these arrangements. So this is something that I hope we can include in these negotiations and end up with the private lights dealt with, or at least know how to do it, find a way in which the individuals buy our lights just like the town did, or whatever like that. I'm really concerned that the compact fluorescents that we have in fact been billed for incandescence, that was the implication of the S2 sheet. Kevin said he'd look into that, and if we are, then he'd straighten that out with the electric company. And that's a very good service. I was very impressed by our meeting at both his willingness to do whatever he could to help us within his power and his knowledge and the connection with the other powers that be. We can't do it as individuals, and you as a town are overwhelmed. So I think this is overall a very great benefit to us.
And I think we could certainly ask Mr. Galligan to work with us to address some of these issues that you've raised.
Well, that's what I think should happen. And our meeting the other day was very beneficial, and I would like to see that repeated before a final presentation and the vote at next meeting. That's what I would like to see as the timetable of this.
Well, we'll see where the board is tonight, but I'd like to remind everyone that, first of all, this is a project that began several years ago. And while I understand some folks may not have been aware of what was going on, there were newspaper articles, there have been multiple meetings by this board regarding this particular project, so it's not something that just popped up a couple of weeks ago. The other thing, too, and I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Renshaw, when you talk about, these aren't perfect. But the lights we have now aren't perfect. And the reality is there's an old saying that you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And what's being proposed is significantly better than what we have now, both in terms of energy use and conservation and so on. And we have to weigh that very carefully with obviously the aesthetic concerns that have been raised.
I agree. I agree. And again, these guys do not cost you extra money if they're built correctly. I plead with you to try these, and part of the discussion we had with Kevin was that part of this project might be researching and coming up with replacement bulbs for these lamps. We don't have to get all new LED bulbs. Mm-hmm. These working fine, and I hope we can exempt these from that. But again, I think we need to sit down and feel comfortable that these details are all worked out.
Thank you.
So,
you. Frank Shepherd, Precinct 1. I'm also one of the organizers of an organization in town going back to about 1986, Citizens for Sound Planning. And I don't intend to take a lot of your time. But starting with sound planning, it could be that the Cape Light Compact did some planning, maybe even good planning. They have an internal administrative budget of over $1 million. This doesn't count, electric flow, but just administrative. But they made a catastrophic mistake, I think, and that was in not sharing their planning with the public. As you say, Brent, from time to time there's been a notification of very minute sort in the enterprise or elsewhere. When the Cape Light Compact put up these demonstrations, there was no publicity. There should have been a half-page ad in the enterprise with a map showing where these sample lights were and alerting all of the townspeople as to what was being proposed. To this day, I will bet you that 95% of this town doesn't know that anything has been proposed. So that's the one thing. The other is that what you did agree to last July was 3,500 Kelvin lights. That is not what the compact has come back to you with. But did they notify you of the change? So it seemed to me that they're saying, well, we're going to change this deal and you're stuck. I don't think we should have to be stuck. We need the time. It was their error. They drafted the contract. It's their error. If it costs more money, they should pay it out of their administrative budget. We shouldn't have to pay it. What we want is time. And I think we deserve the time because we are a town of very thoughtful, involved people. And we have been cut out of this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Well, how do we want to proceed this evening? Do you have a few things you wanted to add?
I do. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks for all the comments. I do have a handout for the board. And I also do have copies of this for folks in the audience as well, if they're interested. What this shows is just a quick summary. Table 1 is the project funding and the savings that have been spoken about, have been written about. But just to recap, the GPS audit mapping that's been done for the town so far, that's been delivered to you, has been an expenditure of funds through the support of this project by the Cape Light Compact on your behalf of over $37,000. We entered into an energy management services contract that will, once the project's completed, invest in your town over $903,000. That includes the fixture specifications, the purchase, the installation, a 10-year material warranty, and a guaranteed energy performance contract. Very unique in this industry. The estimated energy savings is about $10,000 per month, $121,000, and that does assume that all 2,573 fixtures are converted. So if there's any excluded, just keep in mind that would be revised. The annual electric usage savings are over 412,000 kilowatt hours. The other thing is at peak demand, the collection of this town's savings to the grid is over 103 kilowatts. I mean, you just add that by 10 towns, you're reducing a megawatt off the grid. It's really phenomenal. And again, one of the previous speakers mentioned about, the little savings we're bringing. We're bringing 70% energy savings. This is a project remarkable in terms of my history of being in the energy business for over 30 years. It is a remarkable project. I'd also ask you to flip the page on page 2. And again, thanks to Heather for crafting just a few thoughts the other day on how we might look at this, sitting in your seat. So I took some time after we met on Friday, and the first column that's numbered 1 says, as designed. That's basically the proposal that the town engineer, we have sat down, and we believe is the best recommendation. It provides you the lumen adjustment ranges from 100% to 29%. This is a range ability that can be modified in the field. So we're not just bringing lights down. If we get comments from people that would like the lights to brought up, we'll do that. The shields can be the factory or installed in the field. The color temperature, as you're all very well educated now, is a range of 4,000 Kelvin plus or minus 300. Availability for you right now is in process. These fixtures are being packaged up and shipped to here to be able to be installed as we committed to you in June. I will note the 60-day adjustment period following substantial completion. And again, this is here for you. This is a commitment we've made at the cost of the project to make it right. Other attributes, as noted, is this has become the industry standards. Millions of these fixtures have been installed with extremely good performance. It is a Cobra head style as well. The A column, the B column, C, and D are for your reading pleasure or thoughts, but again, as has been pointed out by some of the previous speakers, the 3500K fixture that we did test up may be slightly warmer, but it does have a limitation and can only be purchased in factory specified at just 3 different levels. And the lowest lumens you can get, as people had mentioned before, is only down to about 1800 lumens, and you can only bring it down to 25 watts. So it doesn't really meet the best energy saving performance. It is a special order fixture, so all these things that a special order means it takes a long time to get. So again, I just remind you on the time frame row, there really is a deadline to get this installed. In my mind, for you by June, that's what we committed to. If you want to consider any area or areas or even isolated fixtures that might want to be further studied, we can certainly do that on a case-by-case basis, like this leadway, that would move certain parts of the project installation out until the fall. But we do, and we're bound to the DPU approval that we received by this project, because it is all funded through the energy efficiency dollars funded by the ratepayers. We need to wrap it up by December 31. On the Admiral hats and the possibility of a screw-in LED, Ms. Haywood mentioned that she wants LEDs in place of those CFLs. As a result of the meeting on Friday, we have explored that. And in discussion with NSTAR today, again, I can reach out to those folks, but we don't always get our way. And they actually stand behind these fixtures from a standpoint of the connection to their distribution system. They have a purchase and sale agreement with you that has certain terms and conditions. You signed a license agreement with them to attach to the poles that they own and operate and connect to their system. And further, there's a delivery tariff called the S2 tariff that have certain, let's say, code and quality requirements. We understand, and this is based on a conversation that Clint Chuckle from Siemens had with the representative NSTAR, they will not permit further screw-in bulbs of any type into Admiral hat type fixtures. They do believe that the future for those Admiral hats, according to their view of the world, is to replace them with LEDs in the future or similar or better quality fixtures. So this is new information. I'm sharing it with everyone. It is some of the constraints that we work in a regulated utility environment. I only share it because of everyone needing to know that. But again, I put a note to the town, again, because you're my customer. I need to let you know clearly you will need to plan, if you do exclude these Admiral hats, and that's your call from this, that you'll need to have a plan as to what to do with them when they fail. Your O&M contract with Siemens will certainly support those to be replaced to LED in the future, but if you choose not to do that, there's going to need to be consideration of your contractual requirements to NSTAR for code fixtures and what you may want to do. So I just put that there as a reminder. We do want to protect Falmouth's interest, and I definitely say Falmouth is no different from wanting to be different. each of the towns we've met with have had specific needs to be different about this project, and I do believe we've represented those. I would say Falmouth is the most unique of the towns relative to the Admiral hats, and, I mean, good for you to hear the comments and take the time that you have. I admire that, and I would just close by saying, you don't have to take any votes tonight or next week. Julian asked me to be back next Monday. We'll be here. But again, if you take no action, we are going to continue the project as you've heard. We're going to continue to listen to the feedback. We're going to continue to respond to concerns. But I would definitely urge you to support the continuation of the project and let us continue to work closely with you. Happy to meet with you and any of the citizens should you want us back to meet. So thank you very much.
Kevin, can I
Yes,
ask you a couple of
sure.
questions? The 60-day adjustment period, can you explain what that means? Can you, in other words, if we decide that we're going to take the 4,000 and put them at their lowest setting,
Correct.
and someone is not happy in a specific neighborhood with the light that produces, does that 60-day period allow for your company or that company to go back out and adjust them to go up?
It does. And we use it from not the first day the fixture got installed in that neighborhood, upon substantial completion of the work in the town. So if it takes us 3 weeks to get substantially complete, we're using a marker of about 75% of the work complete. That's when I would give a notice to Heather and Julian to say, you're getting close to substantial completion. Take a few drives around, ask people what they think about it, and give us a call. We will be out fixture by fixture to make adjustments to the best we can.
Okay, follow up if I could. On your little chart here.
Sure.
It appears that the complex, CFLs use 20 watts, and the new proposed use 15 set at the lowest.
Correct?
So to me, that's 900 watts total within the entire town for that 180 that the compact fluorescents are installed in. Am I right?
If you were to take that, you need to times it by the operating hours, annually 4,000 hours. So it is, little amounts do add up.
Right, so 900 times the
Correct.
4,000,
Yeah,
right.
it's a big
Okay.
savings.
Could you qualify what that difference in the savings would be for us?
In dollars or?
Yeah,
Sure.
dollars,
Ken?
the difference, what that would be?
Yep. I'll get back to you on that.
And that's at the lowest setting. If it was at the 20-watt setting, it'd be the same.
Exactly, right.
Right.
So there'd be no
exactly
difference.
Yep.
right.
My question, Kevin, is where is the industry in terms of what is the, what is the next, what do you call them? Luminaires?
Next generation.
The next generation
Of
to come?
right.
So that, let's say we do this, and how long do you think it might be before something else would be available that would be better? 2 years, 5 years? I mean, does the industry know, in terms of what they're working on now, to improve what they already have?
The jellyfish one, the bioluminescence one that's coming out.
What?
There's a lot in research and development, but I would have to say, in terms of watching this over now almost 10 years, from the standpoint, I think I mentioned this at one of the previous visits, I would have never thought we'd be here, so that's one thing. When we had the lead weighted test, it was acceptable, but I was able to really confidently say you'd be saving 40 to 50%. Since that time, we've seen increase in production, we've seen increase in the chip technology, but I do think we've reached a level, only because we've been involved in the nationwide DOE Solid State Lighting Consortium, and when you look at the presentations like 2 or 3 years ago, they do charts of where they do think exactly what your point is, how far we can go on increasing the limits. We're at a good point right now that I do believe the commitment of the 10-year performance warranty, the warranty on the fixture, is going to give you some certainty in terms of should we have waited longer? Should we have not? I think, as your chair said, there are always pros and cons. I do think by far choosing now, making the decision now, does put you in the best position, much better than we were last year, but also one that 3 or 4 years down the road, you will not regret it because of all the attributes that we've packaged around it. And again, by 10 years, you'll revisit, if it's organic lights or whatever that could be out there. And, they're working on a lot of things. But again, I'm here to provide a fixture that meets all the town concerns. No risk, performance, quality, through all of our Cape environmental conditions. But I think, it's good to be asking that, and, again, we're not the only ones that are experimenting with this, because we're not experimenting. We're actually working with a very commercially sound fixture. Let the others experiment, and frankly, it's going to take them 6 or 7 more years to figure out there's another commercial line, and then we'll do a demo of that and test it and see, because eventually you want to consider replacing these as well. But again, just a reminder, we're so fortunate because we're able to calculate, verify a 70% energy reduction and provide this funding all through the Cape Light Compact. That next 10-year wave is going to be one where we might chip in a small rebate, but we'll be talking about borrowing, we'll be talking about nowhere near these benefits that I can see today. So it is a unique project.
It is, yeah.
Rebecca?
If we delayed this vote, we are having a meeting next week, what are the consequences, even if it went a week beyond that? I mean, what is the limit in saying that we need to have our answer to you?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I don't believe you need to vote anything. If you were to vote, you would actually vote to request that we consider terminating your participation. Because you've signed, we're advancing the project as you directed us to do, and as I'm following through, through the design of the project. But if you were to want to stop your participation, then I guess we would share with you what we've learned. I've been involved with projects in other domains, renewable energy and others, and we in Orleans had canceled the project, and we didn't advance it, but today I look back on the framework, the structure, the documents we developed, and that wasn't a bad thing. But we didn't advance the project we had hoped for. So you would have that available to you, and that would be your choice.
Our vote that we did in the summertime
Correct.
has completed all of our transactions. All of our legal decisions were made in that vote in the summer. So there really isn't another vote for us to take then.
I don't believe so. Again,
Okay.
your vote, if you wanted to change or request us to consider a cancellation, would be up to you. But as Selectman Murphy mentioned, the support going forward to this is to be sure we get it right. We provided the adjustments. We listened to your request in terms of the 3,500 Kelvin fixture, and it's got its pros and cons as well. But no, I don't believe you need to vote anything. But if you want us to keep coming back to give you updates on the project, it is a concern. You have the largest number of lights on the Cape. You deserve to be kept in the loop, and we're happy to do that.
Doug?
One question on the table for funding, I just want to clarify. About $900,000 in value is the equipment that's going up. When you talk about the 10-year guaranteed energy savings, that's not including, in your $900,000, that's not including the guareteed savings.
It
As
is.
in-
That's what an EMS contract is. This was procured through Chapter 25A.
Well, I guess where I'm, with the mathematics is, you say there's a savings of $121,000 per year. If you multiply that by 10, you're getting more than $900,000.
And that's why we can do it through energy efficiency. We need that. The benefits need to outweigh the cost. So it's a home run for energy efficiency. If we didn't have that, we'd be asking you to borrow the money.
I guess I'm still lost.
The
The
benefits
$900,000 is the approximate of the value of the equipment, is
of
that?
the investment, correct.
But are we, in addition, getting our $121,000 annual savings, or is that already calculated in the value of the equipment?
No, that $121,000 will accrue to you each and every month
So
through your
that's in
reduced.
addition to that $900,000?
Yeah, the $900,000 is a capital
That's-
investment in a way.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
in your notes, you had listed the 10-year guaranteed energy savings in the column next to the 900,000, and really, that kind of belongs down in the annual savings area, not up there with the 900,000.
If you look at it that way, the only reason I put it there was because that's on the line that says EMS contract.
Okay, but you understand why, I just want
I
to
do,
clarify.
yeah.
Really, what we're getting is the $900,000 in equipment, plus $100,000
savings.
guaranteed in savings every year.
Correct.
I started to wonder whether this was like an ESCO, that we get the savings, but it was paying for the the investment as well. So that's my question is, though, we would have to take a vote if we wanted to eliminate the 180 hats, right?
The board is welcome to do that. However, in your special terms and conditions, the final selection was through the town engineer. I've worked closely with Peter, but happy to work directly with you as well.
Right, but ultimately, this board's the one who has to make the policy.
Understood.
decision on that. Okay.
And if we don't vote, it will continue, and those will be replaced.
I could still work with Peter on
Okay.
your behalf to make adjustments to any of those, as long as I had a few days advance notice, please.
Okay. I did want to make a comment that in viewing those, I know that the board had asked you originally for 3,500. After looking at the 3,500 and the 4,000 turned to the lowest setting, I'll agree with Catherine, it is much better that the 4,000 turned to the lower setting than the 3,500. I just make that comment.
Thank you.
And I would agree in every way, that fixture that you brought to us 2 weeks ago is vastly superior to the one we saw in June.
Right.
No, Tom Renshaw had his hand up.
Well, hold on, I want to try to get the board focused so we can try to resolve this in some way, shape, or form tonight. We could ask them to come back again next week, but I'm wondering if there's anything that's going to change between now and next week. I think one of the decisions that the board has to make is the question of the Admiral hat lights and whether we want to sort of exclude those and try to find another solution for those. However, and I think if NSTAR is not supporting those any longer, I'd like to get something in writing from NSTAR, something definitive from them that says, yeah, if one of those goes, we're not going to let you replace it with another one. I'd like to know that we're dealing with, what we're dealing with in that regard. I think that's one question that's in my mind. Or whether they're just, is it negotiable? Is it something we can work with them on? Because it does seem like there are folks who want to try to keep the Admiral hat lights, and if they can be retained, I mean, from a value perspective, when you look at the energy savings, I don't know that we're really saving a whole lot by replacing those. And it might save you folks a little bit of time and energy if you don't have to replace 180 other lights in Falmouth.
We're happy to replace them. I would just say that, again, through energy efficiency, we can come up with that capital investment because there is savings.
Right.
If you exclude these, we will be very limited in terms of our ability in the future to help you do anything with them.
So we're on our own essentially if
That's
we decide to do
right.
that.
So quick back of the envelope, 183, you should assume from a standpoint of procurement, design, selection, installation, about $500 per light that you'd need to park somewhere in the event those needed to be fully replaced and repaired. You will have available the O&M contract that does have the pay items through procurement available to you to use to get there, but that's the only reminder I put there in terms of should you exclude them, need a game plan to respond to failures.
I need a memory refresh. The people who own their own lights, their own street lights, are they excluded from this? Or,
If you have, and it's been mentioned earlier, a private light, and we have
Yeah,
actually asked NSTAR, Kathy White, who is the account executive, I have an email from her, and I remember it's a one-liner. Private lights that are under the S1 rate schedule through NSTAR at this time does not have a plan to replace those lights to LED until their next rate case.
until when?
Until their next rate case.
Oh, wait.
That was the exact line in her email.
Does that exist in other towns as well as Falmouth, the private lights?
It does. The difference is in towns that may be served by National Grid, the Mass Electric or Nantucket Electric. Mass Electric did obtain DPU approval to offer an LED luminaire type that actually does provide a lower rate, but NSTAR has not.
The answer hasn't done that.
Absolutely
Has
not.
anyone ever attempted to sell their light back to the town? Or, I mean, I don't know, suppose someone had a private light, and if they were going to be excluded because, say, NSTAR, would they have the possibility of selling the light to the town so that the town could accept it? I just asked the question, I don't know. Maybe,
No,
no,
but
probably has never happened before.
It's a new one. We'll look into it.
If somebody would like to speak, please raise your hand and we'll give you the opportunity, but one at a time, please.
Peter may have the answer.
Okay. All set.
Yeah, I think that whatever we do, I would like to at least have a week to think about it. I mean, we've had a lot of information given to us tonight. I realize we don't have a vote, but we have some options that might be acceptable if we choose to go down that road. So I think I wouldn't be prepared tonight to vote on what those options would be. I think we need to review them, we need to summarize them, and then take them up again either next week or the following week.
Did you want to? Come to the microphone.
Jean McCloskey, Precinct 1. I rented one, you.
I can't hear you. No,
as
you
a-
need to speak loud.
As the private light, we don't own it. We have a contract you rent it from NSTAR.
Oh, okay.
And I rented one for 10 years, and then I asked my across-the-street neighbor whether she'd like to take it on for the next time.
So,
But it is a rental thing that comes every, the other thing with the streetlights in the historic district is that as you know, the Historic District Commission has to get a certificate of appropriateness from the utility if they're going to change the lights from whatever they are, like the compact fluorescents now, or if they go with LEDs.
Mr. McConerty has some feedback, I think, regarding that.
He knows that.
Just a moment, just a moment.
Peter McConerty, Town Engineer. Through the board, I just had two questions for Kevin Galligan.
Okay.
Number one is it possible at this time, if the CFL lights go out, is Siemens allowed to go up there with a screw-in bulb to actually replace that bulb? Or it says here that they're not, that NSTAR will not allow screw-in bulbs into their poles?
Siemens, through your O&M contract, does have the CFL bulbs in stock, and they'll continue to replace those CFLs, like for like. I believe NSTAR is concerned if you were to change them to a different type, they would not approve that.
And then just the second question is, so we don't run into a tripping point on this, is if it's possible, if the town moves forward with the 4,000, through the board again, a question for Kevin, if the town moves forward with the 4,000 replacements for the 2,700 streetlights, get through that area, and then is it possible to join Phase 5 for the CFLs, to maybe put the 180 CFLs on the Phase 5? It'll give us a little bit more time to think about those. Is that something that might be possible? So we'll move forward with the contract on the 4,000s, but we can hold off a few more months on the CFLs.
I would say, again, this is, Peter, working together with me, and I'm happy to work with him. I think, I wouldn't view that as moving it into Phase 5, because, essentially, Phase 4 was your part of the contract that set your scope of work. Revisions like this for 183 fixtures, I'm happy to work with him on, adjustments of time and place. We have our contractor on board until December, and if we want to continue to work like that, but again, we will be packing up the tents by December 31.
that's very helpful.
Briefly, Mr. Renshaw, something new. We have a lot still on the agenda this
I
evening.
understand. I think I don't know whether I can, it was in the audit report, and it had a specific line that the 183 Admiral hats were not included in this proposal unless they had a specific order in writing from the town. And perhaps that was already given by Peter, but I thought that should have come from the selectmen if it happened at all. I don't think you have to vote to exclude them. I think they are excluded by the understanding. At least that's how the audit report reads. And as far as Pat's question about what's coming next, he's answering energy efficiency. But I think they're going to be able to hold the same energy efficiency and improve the quality of the light. And that's the direction it's going to go, with phosphors, diffusers, et cetera, et cetera. So we will get better lights.
Thank you. Any last words?
The 60-day adjustment period will be in July and August, two of our brightest months. If there's some flex in this, maybe considering going into September and when it starts to get a little darker and people are paying a little more attention to the
I
streetlights,
see some nodding.
might be worthy, if that can be extended a little bit longer, it might be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, substantial completion in Falmouth wouldn't occur probably until early June. Certainly knowing the summer, we've committed to be off the roads on the Cape during our summer period, so, and we'll have, again, contractor on board right through the fall. Happy to make that a fall adjustment period.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think if we could get just, I think the last piece of the puzzle here is the issue with the Admiral Hat lights, their longevity, whether they'll be supported, if you will, by NSTAR, whether they're allowed. Maintenance, I know Mr. McConerty had made some, in his memo to the board, he had raised some concerns about whether they're at the end of their useful life, and there may not be, if a light fails, there may not be much we can do in terms of fixing it. It might actually have to be replaced. So I think we need to have that, a little bit of exploration from that. And as per Peter's suggestion, maybe we don't need to bring this back immediately. We could, let you guys do some research, figure out what it might cost, put that on the tail end of things, and then come back to it next month. And then, have some additional information, have a better decision. Sound like a plan?
So the plan is, though, that currently this process is continuing moving forward without anything from us?
Unless the board wants to.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware where we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're going to continue ahead with the 4,000 Kelvin, the Cree XSP lights as recommended. But the one thing we can look into, and the one thing that we can have some impact on is, the future of the Admiral Hat lights.
So those will not be replaced in the immediate future?
I think we have some understanding that they'll put those toward the end of the project so that we can come up with a future for those.
Yeah, clearly, the disposition of the Admiral Hats in terms of providing you further information, working with Peter on the timing, and, be sure you're informed relative to what we ultimately do with them.
Okay.
But those, under the progress of the project moving forward, will not be touched until we're back to you.
Okay, thank you. All right. If we're good with that, ready to move on?
Ready to move on?
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Kevin's awesome. Oh, he's the same.
All right, next item on our agenda, we have a shellfish aquaculture license. Eric Mattson, Lawrence Costello, Great Harbor Woods Hole.
Mr. Chairman, before we get going, I need to make a disclosure that I own a restaurant that serves a large quantity of shellfish.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Eric Madsen. Mr. Costello is on duty at the Steamship Authority tonight.
Okay.
We came before you back in October with a proposal to grow shellfish in a float in Great Harbor Woods Hole. And at that meeting, you gave us approval to go forward with the application process. Since then, we've made progress. We've completed the Division of Marine Fisheries survey of the areas. We've submitted our Army Corps of Engineers paperwork, and we've been before the Conservation Commission, who passed our RDA. They found a negative determination, which is positive for us on this. It's confusing that way. So here tonight, the way I understand it, is depending on how things go this evening, the DMF, Division of Marine Fisheries, will send us if it's a positive outcome, they'll send us a application for the propagation of shellfish. And once we get that, we can start work.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I would just commend you for the amount of information that you put in here, because I started to have questions, and as I continued to read, you just answered one right after the other, and when I did read there was a negative report, I thought, oh. So,
Negative's positive for us
the
in this
negative
case.
was positive as I continued to read, so you gave a lot of information here, and I felt very comfortable with
I'm glad.
And for the board's edification, and for those who aren't familiar with it, the RDA is the Conservation Commission permit, if you will. It's called a request for determination of applicability. That's what RDA stands for. And when they issue a negative determination, what they're saying is that the proposed project will not have an adverse effect. That's why they call it a negative determination. And as you noted, sir, it actually is a positive for the applicant. So,
So I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any further comment from the board?
Wish you good luck.
Questions or comments from the audience? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I have one other question. I noticed that Steve and Mary Murphy weren't on the agenda tonight, and we've been going through the process simultaneously together, submitting the paperwork together. I was under the impression that they were, does this apply to them too tonight?
Their names are here.
Were they
Yeah.
also, did they also receive a negative determination from the
Same
Conservation
exact
Commission?
situation that I'm in.
We have not, we don't.
Almost the
I
same.
don't have anything to file
Their
on that.
names are in here.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to
Yeah.
check with the office. There may be something for their application that's still pending.
Okay.
Maybe we just haven't received
not
word
listed.
from the state or something to that effect.
Yeah, but it's not a,
Their- Their names aren't listed in the correspondence.
Yeah, it's a separate
Yeah.
application, correct?
it's
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
application, that's just
All right, so they'll have to
He said it.
get in touch with the office to find
Okay.
out what it is that's holding that up. But as
Okay.
soon as we have everything, we'll put them on the agenda as well.
Great. All right. Thank you very much.
Sir?
I'm Steve.
Oh,
Steve Murphy.
oh.
I was just wondering, I didn't look at the Enterprise Friday, so I didn't see that until I came in today. Should I go in to see Jen, or should I?
They're at the same stage in the process that I'm at. Probably when I went to make schedule the meeting for the Board of Selectmen, maybe I didn't make it clear that I was making the meeting for both applications.
So, yeah, maybe touch base with Jen and come into the office, talk to Diane, and maybe between the two of them, they can figure out what remains to be done for your application.
And would it be, make another appointment to come?
Yeah, you would have to come before us just as tonight. We'd
Okay.
have to give you the approval. Mr. Murphy?
I'm just thinking that we have a meeting next week, that if he gets in to see the.
If you can
town
get in there
manager's
first thing
office.
tomorrow, we could get you in here next week. That's
All right.
possible.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you.
All right, and let's see, next item on the agenda, we have a request for special events. It's a temporary location request for the Carousel of Light, Shore Street Extension.
Mr. Chairman, I happen to know that they are no longer interested in this, even though they've been through the process and it's been denied. They're no longer interested in that area. They are working with the school committee on putting the carousel in the Mullen Hall.
Okay,
And the recommendation from our committee is not recommended anyway, is that
Yeah,
right?
so
so
it's...
there's no action needed.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update. All right, then. Next item on the agenda, request for special events. This is the Zuma Half Marathon and 10K race. This also received, there were some concerns raised by the working group here, according to the application.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the fact that this is a fairly new event, and it was felt that this should come back for discussion with the board, and the possibility there would be questions remaining, because again, it is a fairly new event in the community, just I think the past 2 years, and it's gone through some changes in the meantime. So we did have a staff review, but thought it would be appropriate discussion with the full board as well.
Okay. Mr. Murphy?
A couple of questions. Did the organizer attend that meeting?
The organizer was available for a conference call.
And it's going to frame my comments here. This is a for-profit race. You know, I don't have any problem with it, but I want to make folks aware that this is a for-profit race. This is a company that goes around and does these races for profit throughout the country. I think that this board has been shown disrespect from the organizer. I mean, I don't know how many times she could get pregnant over the 3-year period. But there were 2 or 3 times that she was supposed to be at these meetings. She was pregnant, or something happened that she couldn't come to the Board of Selectmen's meeting. So, I mean, it's just the fact that they're running this not from Falmouth, they're running this from Maryland or wherever. Florida, and I also think that, you know, they had 800 runners last year. I think going to 1,000 would be taking baby steps, moving forward, because at some point in time, we're gonna hit a maximum number there. And this, you know, this is not in a commercial district. This is strictly in neighborhoods. The other comments that I want to make is that I would also ask that if we approve it, that we require a meeting 4 weeks prior, that, to have all of the parties involved in that meeting, the same scenario that we said earlier tonight, because they did some things last year that they weren't going to do. Number one, they shut off the road completely. We had originally asked that they only keep 1 lane because there's a lot of dead-end streets off of Quaker Road that goes down all the way to West Falmouth. Rice gets bigger, I understand you need to shut that down, but if you can't pay attention when it's small, you're not going to be paying attention when it gets bigger. The other thing is that they marked not only on the bike paths with paint, but they marked in the roads with paint. There's other ways to do that, we, you know, make sure that those things don't happen. I mean, this is a prime example of someone coming in and taking advantage of the town of Falmouth for a profit. Now, I realize, and I think the Seacrest does a wonderful job at hosting the event, that the Seacrest gets, you know, some rooms for the weekend and gets some dollars and cents out of these folks. I can appreciate that, but I also think that the town needs to have some respect for us being able to be normal folks in this community. It is in the shoulder season. I appreciate that as well. So I just think that we need to make sure that as we move forward, that the organizer understands a little bit more about this community.
Would you feel comfortable with it staying at 800?
I'd be happy to go to the 1,000.
Because on their policy, they're asking for 1,200.
Right.
Which is a 50% increase. I would rather say 800's fine. I mean, we don't get more money because there are more people coming.
Right. Well,
They do.
I realize that, and maybe the next year you guys can talk about fees and something like that for, you know, the town could get some more money in regard to that. But I'm just saying, you want an event to grow a little bit. They were at 800 last year. I think going to 1,000 is reasonable, and it's my neighborhood, but I can say it's reasonable. But I don't think 1,200 is reasonable, being you're right, a 50% increase. It provides them, you know, a little increase, but not 50%. And the organizational meeting is the key with all of these events. Specifically, not a conference call, but get those people in the room.
We have 2 recommendations here. A set of recommendations from the highway, Superintendent of Highways, John Lyons, and a recommendation from Don from the Beach Committee. And he recommends that a month before the race, that they come here for a meeting in the same way that the organizers do with the triathlon. And they meet with all of the departments together at the same time and discuss the issues that have to be done. And I think that should be a requirement.
That's what
That
you're exactly right.
that they come here a month prior to and meet with all of the departments that are involved, police, fire, beach committee, the highway, all of them, you know, they know what to do. That is a requirement, and maybe we should put a cap on 1,000 this summer. And also follow the recommendations of John Lyons about not using the paint, having removable signs, having, have additional rubbish collections or areas and additional porta potties, because they didn't have enough of those the last time, if you look at that. And I think when they have that meeting with the staff, this is the time when they could enforce these requirements.
Right, and one other thing is, in
Because
John Lyons'
it
letter.
doesn't go well. You know, I was there for that race last time because they run right by my house. And there were people out there trying to help the runners know where to turn, on Chapel Road, because they had them going in both directions. There were some
Right.
coming up and then some going back, and then there was a police officer there, obviously trying to work the traffic, and it worked very well. There were no real problems with it. It worked just fine. And the runners were great. They were encouraged to stay in a certain lane, and they did. So,
One other thing that I'd
Yeah.
like to, in Mr. Lyons's comment, he says they can't provide, they will not be able to provide service on an overtime basis. So what that basically means to me is that the race is run on Sunday, prevent the DPW to do anything to clean it up. We have to wait until they come back to work on Monday. I think the organizers, especially in a for-profit race, should pay for the overtime to be able to clean up after the event. I mean,
That's
there's one
something
thing
that
about the
could-
Falmouth Road Race. The place
It's
is
clean
spotless,
immediately,
right?
yes,
I mean,
exactly.
as hard as much as they do, they really go after and follow up with groups cleaning right away. So those are some
yeah.
comments for.
So, well, I think that's why the fact that they need to come here a month in advance is really important, because, they do it with a triathlon. And you need to coordinate with police, fire, emergencies, medical issues that come about, they need to have, and I know there are a number of medical people who run in the race, because I know a lot of them are nurses and they run, and some of them are out there looking out for some of the other runners as well. But that kind of planning is really important for a race this size, a marathon, rather, it's not a race.
I'm inclined
Maybe it is a
to,
race.
actually not to take any action on this evening. To Mr. Murphy's point, the fact that the organizers did not come to meet with town officials, I think that, whether we call it disrespectful or simply a lack of planning on their part, I think that's certainly one of the concerns, and Mr. Hoffer raised it in his email about the fact that the organizers in prior years have sort of waited till the last minute to address things on a department-by-department basis instead of coordinating with the town. The concerns raised in Mr. Lyons' letter as well, there's some things here. I know, for example, the Cape Cod Marathon will paint symbols on the streets, but they use, I think it's a deep purple color that does not distract the drivers. It's not even noticeable, I think, to most drivers, but if you're running along the road, you will see those. And so I think there's clearly precedent there for accommodating a road race, without putting any undue restrictions on them. And Cape Cod Marathon has been, I don't know how long they've been doing that. The Falmouth Track Club's been sponsoring that for years and years, and we've not had any issues. And again, to Mr. Murphy's point about the trash and so on a Sunday, I think we should ask them to come here and address these issues before we approve this. It's a for-profit race, and while I appreciate the business that they bring to the community, we're not really asking a whole lot for them to show up and make sure that our concerns are addressed and that they do this and follow the rules the way the other road races in town are doing this, because I don't think I've certainly not seen these kind of concerns raised by other department heads or by any department heads when it comes to the other road races, whether it's the Falmouth Road Race or the Cape Cod Marathon. And I think if these folks could follow that same process, it would certainly address my concerns. But, Ms. Moffett?
Well, I'm just read through this, and there's just so many things that I keep asking a question as if they're sitting here. They're going to provide an ambulance at the finish line? It's just one of their lines that they said they would do, and I thought, well, I don't know whether the town provides that or they provide that. And then, of course, I'm back to my parking again, and they're just surmising that they can use different places in town to park. So I really am on the negative side of this. I think it's when I visualize those streets over North Falmouth, and then I think about the bike path, and that the people that want to use the bike path for that day are going to have quite a problem for several hours.
how's the board want to proceed?
Let me follow. I was the first dissenter in this, and I think if we take the conditions that are written on the license, modify it a little bit, go down to 1,000, add a couple of additional conditions. Even the fireworks, we required them tonight to attend the meeting. We gave them the date of the meeting. These people live in our community, raise the funds, and we required them. So I think by just saying, you have to show at a meeting here. If you do not, the event is canceled. Incidentally, just for folks' knowledge, this rate is already currently advertised in Runner's World magazine. So,
It's a little presumptuous, if you ask me.
just FYI. But if I go along with all these conditions and add a couple of additional ones, one that they pay for overtime of the Department of Public Works, and, you know, there's things in these conditions, they have to make sure that they have the parking at North, it says East Falmouth, I know that's North Falmouth Elementary School, and St. Elizabeth Seton Church. So if you want to hold it off and get them to agree with all these things before, that's fine as well.
We can make sure those conditions are added, and the board could approve it tonight with those conditions, and if they don't like the conditions, then obviously they don't proceed with the race. It's, you know, up to the board how you want to proceed.
I'm okay with that, because we could send them a letter saying that we had a discussion, no one from your organization was here, but these are the conditions that we feel that you need to comply with for this to go forward. And please respond to your ability to meet these, to meet the requirements that have been set down
And to be very clear, that contacting is not acceptable. Right. It must be,
in writing.
no, when
In
they-
person.
in
Oh,
person.
but the month ahead of
The
time,
month
they
ahead
have
of
to
time,
come.
they have to come
Yeah.
in person to the town
Mhm.
and meet with these people,
Right.
with
Let-
the
let-
thousands of the attendees.
Let me frame a motion and see if folks can go along with it. A move that would approve the Zuma Half Marathon 10K road race on September the 27th with the following conditions. No complete road closures. Parking at Old Sewer Beach dirt lot would be available. Zuma to secure and provide proof that they have secured parking at the Seacrest Hotel, North Falmouth Elementary School, and St. Elizabeth Seton Church. Number 3, route markings must be either temporary signs or chalk markings, or a suitable alternative approved by the Department of Public Works. Number 4, contact police detail sergeant 8 weeks before the event to arrange for adequate public safety requirements. Organizes to place rubbish receptacles at every aid station and at porta potty locations, and to be emptied by the race volunteers, and overtime paid to the Department of Public Works for cleanup immediately following the race. Locations en route must be policed for cleanliness following the race. The number of attendees is a maximum number of attendees, runners, is 1,000, and a requirement is that they personally attend a pre-race meeting 4 weeks before the event that will be established by the town manager's office. So that would be my motion.
I'll second that.
Anyone else have anything else that I missed?
Did they get the deposit back from last year?
I can't confirm that.
Yeah, we'll have to check and let you know.
In some ways, with the painting that they left on it, I wish there was some way we could at least somehow say, and there was a cost to the town being left that way.
Lincoln researched that before that meeting.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Okay, some more discussion. If we're having the Striper Fest over at Marina Park, do we have enough personnel to take care of 2 majors on the 27th of September? I mean, they're going to be over there from 12 to 7, and you're going to meet another group of assistants from the town from 7 in the morning until 11. I'm just thinking about police and fire and emergency.
Well, that would be a question for town manager's staff. they,
To the best of my knowledge, that was reviewed, by the respective staff departments as part of their review. We can certainly raise that to confirm it further.
any other questions or comments? Ready to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to be opposed to this one. Motion carries 4-1. Hand that down for signature. Next item on the agenda, request for special events, the art market at Town Hall Square, Tuesdays from July 1 through August 26. And there are concerns about hours of operation with the traffic in Town Hall Square. I know in years past that has been an issue. I believe the applicant is here this evening. If you'd like to come up, the board may have some questions for you.
Good evening, Candy Proctor, I'm the manager of the market.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Well, it has not been recommended by the events committee at this location. Is that fair to say? At this location, or?
Well, it doesn't comply with the board's policy.
Oh, okay.
There appears to be fees that are outstanding from last year.
I was not aware of that. I thought we had gotten a fee reduction.
From what I understand, there were no fees paid at all last year.
Oh, no, I have a receipt for a $100 fee.
Okay. But does it go through the town manager's office where the fees paid from last year?
There may have been this modest amount paid, but of course, that was supposed to be on each event, on each occasion of the event, which would have been weekly. And I'm not aware of any fee waivers granted.
I was under the impression when I paid the $100 that it was under discussion and that the town would get back to me on that, and I never received any follow-up.
Check with the front office.
I don't mean to be the bad guy, but we worked on a policy to eliminate traffic in downtown, specifically Town Hall Square, people coming to do business here in Town Hall, anywhere on Main Street. I know that we've continued to have complaints from some of the offices over there, specifically about setup times and things of that nature, the music being played. There's a doctor over there that's not thrilled with the music and things of that nature for his patients. Patients specifically try to schedule other times than when this event is going on. I think if you want to do it, we have other locations that we can do it. And that would be my suggestion, that you come back with another location.
Okay. I think that would be a poison pill for us, and that would be the end of the art market.
I'd also note in your cover letter, you asked that, therefore, we are petitioning the town to reduce our permit fee to $100 this year, which suggests you knew it was more than that in the past.
No, I based that on what I received from the town for this year, for the special event policies. And the reason for that is, and I think it's stated in what I submitted to the board, we give all our profits back to the town, but specifically to the Falmouth Cultural Council.
And so there's $50 in profit last year?
That was it, after we paid for operational costs. The year before, it was $1,500.
I mean, I would agree with you, Mr. Murphy, and that, we made it very clear this is our policy, and to not even be willing to consider a second choice.
Well-
The poison pill is that you're not going to get to do this.
Okay, well, may I elaborate a little bit? Most of our visitors are walk-in, okay? They're visiting Falmouth, they're on Main Street, and they stop by to see us. I think we've been generally very well received. I mean, we'll never please everybody all the time. I do believe the dentist's office was closed on Tuesday, so I don't know that he had an issue this past season. But our we don't have a lot of traffic that is drive-in park to see us. I know there are some that do. If you put us in another location, for instance, there was a for-profit group that had a place out by the band shell, had a little market vendor situation a couple of years ago, and they bellied up. I just don't think that we would be able to succeed. I sort of took over the management from Marty, who you know well, and I've tried to keep it in keeping with how he originally envisioned this to be, which was to celebrate local vendors, local artists, local artisans, have an opportunity for them to be able to show their wares to our visitors, and also to be able to take that funding and bring it back to the town to support arts. And as you know, the money that we contribute back to the Cultural Council gets redispersed in the form of grants to artists and artisans in our community. We're all residents. We are taxpayers. This is our town as well. And also, I would like to suggest that there was a much larger kerfuffle, more exuberant discussion over the Falmouth Farmers Market, and that has succeeded again for this year. We're simply asking for the same consideration.
As far as other locations go, have you talked or considered looking at, for example, the Falmouth Library lawn? I know the Board of Trustees can be a little difficult sometimes in terms of what they like to see there or not, but they have allowed events there in the past and on an annual basis. I think the, was it the cars?
They can't sell anything there.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, is that what it
that's
is?
what I call it.
Sales. The school,
can't
Mullen
sell
Hall, an opportunity there perhaps.
Would the church consider, they let you park there?
St. Barnabas, move over there, that's within walking distance, and if they, as noted, if they are letting you park there now, perhaps they would be willing to host you?
Well, I don't know that there would be, that they wouldn't have conflict of interest if they have events that day, which might be, for instance, a funeral. I'm not sure that they would want to have us out on the front lawn. I think we need to be in a place that has high visibility. If we're off the beaten path, I don't believe that we'll succeed. You know, we're just asking for the same thoughtfulness that you gave to the Falmouth Farmers Market.
And with all due respect, everyone would like to be able to come and set up a business on this main street and not pay any rent. I mean, the truth be told is that, you know, those folks are selling a product, and it's taking away from everybody else who's paying rent on Main Street and working to establish a business. Now, I mean, we're not even in the discussion phase, in my mind, because you're saying you're not making any money, but someone's selling something there.
Well, the hours that we had last year were difficult for us, right? Because by the time we were set up at 2 o'clock, if it's a fair day, everyone's at the beach, right? So we really saw a greater reduction in foot traffic. The economy is tough on everybody. I would suggest that perhaps we add to the attractiveness of Main Street Falmouth, and that we are not undercutting the merchants. In fact, I guess the poll that was taken by the farmers market folks found the 65% of merchants found that it was a positive thing. So I'm sure that there are indications that some people might not be pleased, but I really don't think that we're making that sort of a dent in the merchants.
Is there a fee that the artists pay?
Yes. There's a 15% remittance back to, and that is essentially our operational costs. And, you know, the bulk of that, hopefully, we'll have more this year if you would consider approving us to be able to return back to the Cultural Council.
And those operational costs are?
Essentially, the musicians. It's very low. I mean, I pay a little bit for some copying. It's a pretty small operation. It's not a big affair.
That's fine.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think what we're here to address is the recommendation from the internal working group that said the event doesn't meet the minimum requirements because the hours of operation conflict with the business hours traffic at Town Hall parking lot. And that is the issue, is the disruption of trying to get to Town Hall on that day in the summertime. And I would accept the recommendation that you do need a different location. Now, I don't think it's our job to sit here tonight and help you find another one, but I do think that you could meet with the working group perhaps and work with them and see if there isn't some other location that could be found that would suit you. But I think for all practical purposes, having it here, I know works well for you, but it certainly doesn't work well for the people who work here or for the visitors who have to come here. It really is a conflict with traffic. And I would make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the internal working group.
We don't need to take any action, actually, if we don't want to approve it.
Well, we have to vote on their recommendation.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second then to
Okay.
accept the working group's recommendation, which is to not approve in just a moment, yes, to not approve the event as presented to the board. I guess there's some folks, public comment? Sure.
Thank you. My name is Max Wheeler. I've been doing the art market since its beginning. I'm an abstract artist and poet. Regards the parking issue, or the traffic, we park over at the church after we set up. And a major part of the issue was when we come in at, say, 1 o'clock or for a setup around that time, the entire parking lot here is filled. And you have, most of the dealers are women, a lot of them middle-aged seniors, and they have all kinds of gear and equipment to try to drag in to get their tents set up and so forth. So we were asking for an early setup, like 10:30, and then it would open, say, 12, and we would be finishing at 6. So we do not create a traffic problem by our own cars. And people who are coming into the Town Hall Square are surprised to even see us. I remember last summer, there were 2 women walking past me, and they had stopped to look at this table and that table, and one of the women says to the other, she said, wow, she said, I'm really impressed. Look at the quality that's here, she said. This is fascinating. She said, I can't wait to get out into Main Street and see those stores. So just seeing what we were doing encouraged them to go off and see what they thought was going to be really even a lot better. So I've heard comments like this consistently over the 6 years. And I would say our presence is a positive event. The other thing is we are all residents of this town and coming right here into Town Hall Square, which is the essence of this town. I think that is worthy of consideration. So these are a few of the issues that I have, and also the fact that I said that when setting up, people come to park and then they see us, and it adds to the excitement of being in Falmouth on their summer vacation. So it's a positive phenomenon. I've seen and heard that many times over. And again, we are residents of Falmouth. Cannot this town respect its own people? We are just craftspersons. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to say, obviously, Mr. Wheeler has raised some important points, but I think anybody who comes to Town Hall on that day, which I have done on numerous occasions, and sometimes I've had to park as far away as beyond the church because you cannot find a parking place. If you have a meeting here and people are coming from other towns to a meeting, has happened to me on several occasions. I think the internal working group gave it every consideration, but certainly they're here, they work here every day, and they're far more aware of what the conflicts are during that time. So I just think that maybe the working group could help the arts group find a location that would work for them other than this, because of it's like gridlock, You know, I don't need to tell you that, you know what it's like. So we have a motion.
One last comment.
The reason we had requested an earlier start time was to relieve the congestion during the lunch hour. And I believe that was something that had been expressed at the working group meeting. I think that the issue was our vendors were trying to unload and jockeying for positions to find a place to unload and set up. If you would give us the consideration of letting us maintain that location and having an earlier start time, 10:30, our vendors would be unloaded, the cars would be removed to St. Barnabas. And again, I do believe, not only being the manager there, but also being a vendor there, that the greatest majority of people who visit the market are on foot. I think you would actually see that it would improve the parking situation that day. And I would urge the board to at least give us 1 year, as you did the farmer's market, and reassess at the end of the year as to whether or not we need to find another location.
I just have one sentence that says the art market said they were only able to donate $50 to the Cultural Council.
That was last year.
Yes.
The year before it was $1,500, so it was a huge drop in how much we could.
And you were at the same place last year?
Same
That it went
place.
from 15 to 50?
And that was because we had a reduction in hours.
In the hours?
Yes. You know, we would be in place so that we could be there for the lunchtime crowd before people go to the beach, and that will make a big difference. And I think it would, you know, we'll see with the economy as it is, but my guess is that we would be able to probably meet what we did year before last. That would be my hope.
Thank you.
A couple of comments. One, I just want to make it clear that in terms of the recommendation, it was 2 different items on the recommendation. The first one was that it does not meet the minimum requirements, and the second item related to the operations in conflict with the hours of town hall. I want to acknowledge that Ms. Proctor did attend the working group meeting, was as respectful as she is here this evening and has been so anytime I needed to approach her to address complaints that were ongoing over the summer. So I just want to acknowledge that on Ms. Proctor's behalf, has been very cooperative with the town in that vein. One of the things we did talk about as a working group, should the town, the selectmen consider approving the event in spite of its lack of compliance with the policy, that we would recommend hours of operation that were after the lunch hour for an evening art market rather than pushing it further into the business hours of the day. So that was the working group's thought, and I just offer that for the board's continued discussion.
That might be worth trying.
I was actually thinking, you know, almost opposite direction, if they ran it from 11 to 3, so that they, but they got their cars out of there at 10, or even 10 to 2.
It's the people coming in and out to town hall. It's the activity there, and it's the people who sometimes want to come there that park here. They don't park down the street. I'm sure there are a lot of people who just park elsewhere in town, go to lunch or whatever, and then come to the art market. But there are people who just come in here, because I've seen them. They come in here and park and go directly to the art market. I mean, it's just, there's a great deal of congestion. Now, that's a thought of having it start later in the day, if that's, I don't know how, anyway.
Well, one more thing I wanted to comment on, that was the fees. We did have some conversation with the representatives of the art market last year about the fees. They were not recommended to be waived. We asked for them to consider, similar to the farmer's market, an investment in the property with commensurate investment with what the fees were. They were unable to offer that to the town. There was no fee waiver recommended. And additionally, we would discuss that again for next year, and we would not recommend waiving the fees, and that the $100 a day for the market to be there would be recommended for this year.
I'm just going to make 2 comments. Number one is, again, we worked 12 meetings to come up with a policy. 12, not hours, 12 separate meetings, okay? And we come up with a policy, and you know, sometimes you have to have some intestinal fortitude, meaning you have to have some discipline to follow your policy. That's number one. Number two, by their own admittance, the dentist closed last year on Tuesdays because that's the day they held it. They basically had the guy close on Tuesdays because it was a disruption to his business. So, I mean, everybody deserves to make a living. I don't disagree with that. And sir, I'm gone through that market, I've bought some things, and I think the things that are sold there are extremely crafty and extremely artistic. However, the venue needs to be somewhere else that doesn't interfere with somebody else or with the entire community being able to do its business. And you know, when we did it 12 o'clock, there was no parking. There would be cars parked in the fire lane, folks unloading. So even if they weren't in a parking spot, they were trying to unload. And I understand it was very cumbersome, but it's not conducive for business. It's not set up for business.
I want to go back to my motion, which is to accept the recommendation of the committee and ask them to go back to the committee and try and work with them to come up with an appropriate location, hours, whatever, and have the events committee help them with that.
We have a
Because
motion
we're
and a
not going to do
second.
this
Yeah.
tonight unless we want to stay here for another hour.
So, the motion and the second, you just heard it, and I tend to agree. I like the idea of perhaps shifting it later in the day, if that could be considered, because what you may find is that as people get away from, well, I think you even just mentioned it, that if it's a great sunny day, people are going to be at the beach, but, you know, as the day wears on, people are going to be coming off the beach and coming downtown for ice cream, and then they'll see the craft fair. So it may actually work for you folks, but we've got to take a vote. We've got to move on. Any last discussion by the board? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous? Please get in touch with the town manager's office, see if you can work out something with them that they can bring back a recommendation, a positive recommendation for us. I think we would like to see you succeed, but we've got some issues here that have to be addressed, so, okay, thank you. All right. Town manager's goals. I have a handout for all of you, because there's one in there that particularly, I guess I'm particularly fond of, I guess you could say. And so I'll pass these down to everybody to take a look at. This is one goal. We had previously discussed, and we wanted some time to think about it, that the three things on the list that we had talked about were pursuing consolidation of fire, police, dispatch
The
operations.
first one, ESCO.
ESCO is going to be done one way or the other.
Well, I was going to say, implement ESCO-approved projects
Okay,
rather than,
that's an option as well.
yeah. And then, because they're going to happen, but there needs some oversight.
Okay.
And I think the second one is fine. Pursue the consolidation. I guess it's an ongoing issue, not something that is expected to happen in this year alone, but just some further discussions. And the town website, does that go with this?
That's what I've handed out, is referring to the town website, and
You
we've...
condensed it pretty good.
I know.
For the
Well-
condenser, he didn't do much condensing, did he?
That wasn't, if I might...
Let's not get caught up with the detail, huh?
Details, right. No, what I wanted to do, because, you know, it's funny, that we're going through this process here with the town manager, but I've actually just been through this process myself at my place, at my day job, my place of employment. And I'm still actually waiting to get my goals/objectives for the coming year and still assign them, because I have some folks who report to me, assign them to my people at work, because upper management where I work, they're actually in the process, they had a list of 40 objectives, corporate objectives, if you will, that they're trying to condense down to a short list of things that can be filtered down. And so the reason why I mention that is because I was looking at some of these things, and what I wanted to do, during my day job, when we talk about goals, we talk about things that are specific, that are measurable. And certainly, with respect to Mr. Suso's goals, there are some things that have had to carry over in some years. And what I wanted to do here, and the reason why I provide you all with this, reinvent the town website, what was originally listed. But I think there's more to that, and that's why the goal that I'm suggesting is enhance the online presence of Falmouth. And then I provide milestones that could be included, and any others that anyone else might consider. And these milestones, and I think, I may be wrong, but I think there may already be an email policy, or there's one in draft form already, email/social media policy. Electronic data retention and destruction. This is something that was raised a few years ago about the fact that the copiers that are now used actually have hard drives in them. And so when you copy information onto those hard drives for the purpose of actually making duplicates, that information can stay there, and then the question of course becomes what happens to that data when the copier, because I do believe that we lease a lot of our equipment, that copier goes somewhere else, and that data stays on that hard drive. So there's a question there about data retention, about destruction, about documents that we don't want to have leave the custody of the town. The website obviously was the original focus, but that I think is just one piece of this. And then, of course, there have been discussions about Twitter feeds, Facebook pages, and I think we want to move the town into the 21st century. These are all milestones that could be under the umbrella of enhancing the online presence of Falmouth. And that's why I present this to all of you. This is the one thing that stuck out at me as being an objective. And there are different things here that Mr. Suso could delegate to various individuals. These are not necessarily things that he would have to do all himself, but it would be his responsibility to, say, accomplish this.
I guess for those, I would prefer explore for both 4 and 5, as opposed to saying this is necessarily something we are going to require or really have him be as a goal that he does this year, but maybe to start the process of it.
Okay.
And on where you have email, social media, I would put internet. I don't know if we have an internet policy or not, but I know you have to have one, because there's some employees that don't need the internet. And sometimes a job description should be clear that somebody doesn't need the internet, they don't have access to the internet. But I don't know if you have those policies or not, but it's a good policy to have.
Most likely, most of this will come in the form of a RFP, because I think this is outside of the scope of what the town itself can accomplish. I mean, there's some specific things. I mean, if we're looking to reinvent, we'd be looking for somebody that does this and has done this somewhere else, and would know most of these type of things to be addressed.
Well, if I could, the first two items, item 1 and 2, are policies.
Yeah, they're policies.
And those could actually be drafted up, and would probably be drafted up by the departments that are most knowledgeable about that, which would include town council, personnel office, IT.
Get them from other towns.
And we could,
They're already out.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I think it's important that we have them, but I'm not looking at this as being something that Mr. Suso has to bend over backwards to actually accomplish. I think it can be done if he provides the direction. 3, I agree, is something that may require some effort. It might require an RFP. It might require some outside expertise, because there's a lot more to that than simply saying, let's build a new website. 4 and 5 are actually relatively easy. And to be honest with you, I could go out to Twitter right now and set up a Twitter feed. The issue of that becomes, and that's why I say management, it's the question of who's overseeing it, how it's being used, what the town decides, what kind of information would be presented via Twitter and via Facebook. But those are two services that are essentially free of charge, and it's not a question of cost, it's a question of who manages it and how. So.
The county just redid their website. We went out to bid and we hired someone to do it. Actually, it came in under the bid price, but it's great. I mean, it's very easy to use, and there are many links to it, and it wasn't complex.
How about we consolidate here? Enhance the online presence of the town of Falmouth, explore Twitter and Facebook, and develop policies that would develop policies that would address the use of all of the online presence of the town of Falmouth, because that's very, very broad stroke.
And
we can
improve the
refine the
website.
wording, but, coming out with a goal like this, I think we've always talked that we wanted our goals to be really one line and, one sentence or something of that nature.
And the website, don't forget the website.
Well, I mean, he's online presence, meaning the online presence with our website, and then go on, explore Twitter and Facebook, or you don't even have to put that, social media.
Yeah.
Just the word
Just
social
social
media.
media.
Okay?
Yeah.
Could I, excuse me? I think about some of the emails that I receive from either local residents or outside of Falmouth, and they're absolutely disturbing. And so I just have certain names that I just immediately delete. And I'm just thinking about that being very open for people to read on Twitter and Facebook. I think there are people who really want to say some things to selectmen, and they do it, and I'm just thinking about Facebook.
And you bring up a very good point, and that's why you need a policy, because the administrator of the Facebook page has the ability to pull off negative comments. So,
Then I wouldn't have to read them.
in other words, the administrator, so that would be part of the policy.
Okay.
Because the administrator has that ability. In other words, if someone goes on a Facebook page and starts trashing,
Yes.
you have the ability to take that off, only as the administrator. So that would be part of the policy
The
development.
administrators.
Yeah, the policies are
The
important.
policy, yeah.
And there are various levels. I mean, I do believe you can even set it up so that comments are not even allowed on certain posts. So the idea, and again, the idea for social media is to be able to provide information to the citizens of Falmouth, not necessarily to create another avenue for feedback. I think between coming to the meetings, we've got the public policy, the public speakers policy. We've got, folks can get a hold of us using email, using letters. This is simply a way for information to get out to people. That's what I'm thinking of here in terms of the website and the social media.
Well, I agree with that and all the others that are on the page.
So, just to focus us, per Kevin's suggestions, enhance the online presence of Falmouth, and we'll reduce this to a couple of bullet points. Develop policies, therefore, explore social media, and update the website. 3 bullets?
Yeah.
Okay. And those are sub-bullets, if you will. And then the other things that we discussed, the implementation of the ESCO projects, pursuing the consolidation of the fire, police, dispatch operations, and continuing to explore opportunities with the school department.
I would just say explore opportunities with the school department, because
Because
continue implied that could go on forever.
I think explore, but I think specifically in duplication of services.
Should we say explore opportunities with the school department to eliminate duplication of services?
Yes, we're exploring it. That doesn't mean they're gonna go along with it. But.
Why can't we just leave it the way it is, for community development?
Because it's so broad.
Consolidation of services and efficiency enhancement.
Because it's so broad that there's no direction. It's too, that's fluffy, the way it is right now.
I agree.
I'm sorry, did you
No,
write it
It's not
down? I didn't mean that.
specific, you're right, it's not specific.
Okay.
So,
So
When you say-
explore opportunities with school department for consolidation of services.
consolidation of services.
Consolidation of
That's
services, that's
specific.
right.
So I just wrote down to eliminate duplication of services. Are we changing that?
would
Explore
say-
opportunities with the school department to consolidate
Or
services?
for consolidation
That's
of
what you
services.
That's
suggesting.
great, that's a good one.
For consolidation of services.
I think we should stop there. This is a lot to do in the course of a year. This
So what do we
has
got?
a lot
Tell
of
me,
implications.
We got them
so-
all here, the ones that are on here?
Okay, well, the other ones on here, when we last spoke about this, we basically agreed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we were in agreement that they were things that
He's
Mr.
gonna do.
Suso's going to do on his own anyway, whether we provide them as goals or not. But but it's these other items that, in fact, stuck out as being things that went above and beyond and sort of provided some direction to him and his office for things that the board would like to see accomplished over the coming year. So, implementation of the ESCO-approved projects, pursue consolidation of fire, police, dispatch operations, enhance the online presence of Falmouth with the sub-bullets previously noted, and explore opportunities with the school department for consolidation of services.
We have in the last few years had this one other bullet that's not in here, and that's continue to find efficiencies in government.
I think that's implied, is it not?
I don't know, because I think we've had it in as goals up until now, specifically the mergers, we had brought in the finance department, then a year later, we did the harbor master's office and the Department of Natural Resources.
That's more of a statement than a goal.
Okay.
It's not really a goal, it's like an ongoing.
It's fluffy.
That's fluff?
I think this year we're
I'm
saying
gonna have to
direction of
remember
this.
that.
Well, number 2 is an example of it.
Okay.
Yeah, consolidation of fire dispatch.
That's true.
Yeah.
We've made it specific this
Okay.
time, actually,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
If we're coming up to the end on the goals, I think we should also have a discussion concerning the town manager's, our next.
Contract.
Contract
He's
and
working on
agreement, and I think we need to set a date. I mean, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that, as we're talking about the goals for the town manager, we should also talk about a date.
Because we don't have a whole lot of meetings,
No, we don't.
Left
So
before this
I
board.
just think I'm tying that together.
so we should have a specific date where we're
Yes.
going to vote the contract,
Yes,
which means then all the other work in advance of that.
And maybe we need to assign somebody
Well, let's,
to
you know
do
what,
that
let me,
discussion.
we'll
You
put
did
that
this
on
the
the.
last meeting.
Yeah, I know. Let's,
You said that the last meeting. Well,
I think the reason why it didn't end up on this meeting is just if you look at the length of our agenda
Yeah.
and the hour we're at.
Well, I did.
okay.
We've got next week. We should have time. We'll put it on next week's agenda, and then we can have the formal
Definite
discussion
date
about
and-
that.
And
yeah.
when we want to have it
So
completed.
on the 31st agenda, we're just announcing?
We'll have an agenda item for discussion so that we can stick to the open
Talk
meeting law
about the
here.
extension of the town manager's contract.
Okay. And then the next 2 meetings in April. We have town meeting on the 7th.
Yeah, why don't we can talk about that in a few moments when we get to selectmen's reports, if you'd like. Let's focus, we have a couple of other items left on the agenda. I want to get through these.
That's what we do every time.
Let's see. You had something there?
Well, I was just going to say, the next one is policies and procedures, and since, just in a few weeks, we're going to have a whole new board, I would suggest that we not discuss any more policies and procedures and let the next board take it over, because we don't have that much time
Well-
left anyway, unless you have.
I've actually done a
I
little
mean-
preliminary work on this. That-
Well, I think the new board should do that. If we're going to develop an annual calendar, I think that should be presented to a new board. I
Well-
don't think this board should determine what the calendar is for a new board.
Well-
I know you've got the work on it, but
No, I understand that, but I think there's a few things to consider. One is that we're not suggesting we come up with a brand-new calendar.
that's what this is.
No, actually what it is codifying what the board has done annually, year in and year out, so that it is on paper and visible for all of us to see. I think one of the things that we have to consider, and Pat, especially in your situation, you're going to have a very young board.
I'm going to have a young.
You're going to have a very young board. And the reason why I say that is because
Everybody's younger than I am.
that's not quite what I meant. But with Mr. Murphy's retirement, with my retirement, you're going to have 4 members of this board who have less than 1 term under their belt.
I realize that.
And I think it's important that we at least make sure that we leave, that, come May 21st,
Oh, I see
when
what
the new
this
board
is.
convenes, that we've at least left an organized fashion behind what's going on, so that you and the town manager's office is not overloaded trying to bring a lot of people up to speed. The calendar, this is simply a draft that I threw together real quick. There are more dates and items that I think need to be added to it. The idea there is simply to say, to put down on paper so you can hand it to a new member of the board or put it on the town's website to say, look, this is what the board does. In any given month of the year, we have to do X, Y, and Z. And it's what we do on a regular basis. It's not creating something new. It's simply putting on paper what we've always done. The other two items in front of you, the meeting, well, I'd start with is the hearing procedures, which is the draft that we've been working under for the past year, essentially. Because remember, we didn't really follow an established process for hearings, and that's very important that we do because they have legal implications.
Pretty well outlined, the
Well,
process.
and that's
in
why.
the general laws.
Well,
It is
it's not
very-
outlined for us, though, because that's been an issue that we've had in years past, where the board has actually had for example, a wetlands hearing without actually following the necessary process to make sure that it wouldn't be challenged on procedural grounds. We have to remember, a hearing is a legal proceeding that has to be conducted identically, or at least an effort has to be made to do it identically every time we do that. And so having a written set of procedures that's followed on a regular basis, that's important from a legal standpoint. The meeting procedures that are in front of you, I don't expect us to go through all of this tonight. I wanted to make sure you all had this, make sure you had updated drafts. The meeting procedures, this is how we've been running the meeting for the last year. There's certainly opportunities here to make changes or make updates or whatnot. But again, just to make sure that the board has this, I think we should codify it for the new board convenes. And if the new board decides that it wants to make changes, then it certainly can. It has every right to.
Just a couple of comments. Number one is, I think this is the page one, the annual calendar. I don't think it's always etched in stone, but it's a good guideline. The next part, the meeting procedures, I think that is completely up to whoever is the chairman.
Every chair is
Every
different.
chair is different, and I understand, Brent, that you want to leave a template to new members that have never served, but some of them might have done other things besides being a board of selectmen, and, I don't know whomever may follow in these seats, but they should have the flexibility to be able to run a meeting according to the law, but also not necessarily the way you would run a meeting or the way I would run a meeting. I mean, that's as simple as it. This part I don't agree with, the meeting procedures. But page one I could use as a template of what needs to be accomplished in a year and with additions and subtractions. But the other part, I don't think I think it's burdensome to any new chairman.
I'm not expecting anybody to read this all tonight, but what I would point out to you is that this is not how the meeting is run. That these are procedures, for example, how the agenda is assembled. And one of the things that this board has certainly agreed to do, and what we've stuck to over the last year, was putting things, for example, like the announcements and proclamations and the summary of actions early in the meeting as opposed to late as in years past.
But that's your style, and that's the way
Pat,
you do it.
that is not necessarily my style.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
the way the board has provided that feedback that you want to do it that way, and that's the way we've done it.
But I don't think that needs to be a
This board
policy. That can be.
16 years, and every time there's a new chairman, it's different. And every board member respects that, and allows the chairman, even if they don't agree, to function however they want. How they set up the agenda, although usually the board determines how they want the agenda set up. But as far as how the meeting goes, obviously, if it's a public hearing, it's very clear what you have to do. But the rest of it is really style, and people are going to be different. So I think, there's a handbook, they've done that handbook for Massachusetts Selectmen, and they've completed the first section, which, by the way, I have a copy of, and I should circulate to you, which is really, that's the whole guide to being on the Board of Selectmen, which is really helpful. It's very general and just provides general guidelines. And that's what you really look for, because every board has to adapt to the times, to the issues, to everything, and they have to develop their own style of working together. And that's what makes the board successful, not to be driven by, but if someone wishes to have more specifics in running, everyone tries very much to adapt. I think we've adapted very well to your style of running a meeting. But other chairmen aren't going to do it that way, and that's okay. And they should be allowed to do it that way.
I wholeheartedly agree that everyone needs to bring their personal
Their
touch
own personal
to the-
style.
to the style to the chairmanship. I mean, Mr. Chairman, I have never agreed not putting times on our agenda, but you're the chairman.
And you don't
I
want
have
to.
given you the,
Yeah.
you know.
We like times and you don't.
Again, folks, I'm not, this is not about personal style.
Okay.
If you read what I've put down there, and again, this is just an updated draft that I handed out to everybody earlier in the year. There's nothing about style in there. It doesn't even say anything about times.
But it's.
It's simply, please, I would ask that you all take a look at it and read it. I think a lot of people are shooting it down without even considering what's in
We're
it.
not shooting it down, we're saying we don't need it, because each chairman is going to, like, for instance, hold questions till the end. Well, some chairman may not want to do that. They may want to have questions
Well, that's fair.
differently.
Well, and
They may want to have public comment before the board has its deliberations, depending on what it is. You take all the public comment first, then the board deliberates. Sometimes now, we even get to the point where we have motions on the floor, and then we take public comment. Usually, some chair don't do that. They don't let the board, or they don't encourage the board to make motions until all the public comment is heard. It's just,
Well, none of that's in here, though, and that's my
well,
point.
and it doesn't
is
have to
that-
be. It's up to the chairman if that's how they want to do it.
All right, well,
Well,
Doug, you had some additional
We've
things
lived
with
through
respect to
20
policies.
Just one of them, I think I'll hold off on the other, is whether we wanted to at least vote on the public comment policy, since we are in discussion of policies, and we had committed to voting that in January.
I make a motion that we adopt the current public comment policy that we've been following since January.
I do have copies of it here if anyone wants to look at it
And
before
I
then.
looked at it when I saw that.
Second.
That we had the email, that we hadn't really adopted it yet.
Okay, so we have
It's
a
a good
motion and a
point,
second.
Doug. Good job.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
Nope.
Unanimous.
And then the other, I'll hold off.
Okay. All right, last item on the list, the seasonal license renewals.
Mr. Chairman, I'll give a disclosure that I'm the holder of an all-alcoholic seasonal liquor license, and then after we do the all-alcohol club licenses, I will recuse myself because of the close proximity of some of these restaurants to my own, and as well as the fact that my own license is up for vote this evening as well.
Which one is that?
I'm not doing any ads here.
All right, how do we want to proceed?
I would move approval of the Falmouth Yacht Club and the Seacoast Shores Association all alcohol club license seasonal.
Second?
A motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous. And for the all-alcoholic restaurant license?
We received quite a bit of correspondence concerning the landfall restaurant.
That, yeah, I looked at that too. That requires a public hearing with notification, a 10-day notice in the paper. And if we have these, then we should have to hold a public hearing and then, and hear what these complaints are. So I don't know if,
Is that just for entertainment license, or is that?
no, that's for a liquor license. Anytime anyone complains about a liquor license and it's a legitimate complaint and it has to do with noise or whatever, you have to hold a public hearing because you have a complaint. So I don't know if we want to wait to grant, you could still grant the license. It doesn't go into effect until, what, May, when they open, or when do they open? I don't know when they open, it's a seasonal license. So, but then you have to advertise the hearing, and that takes a while. So,
Could I just ask, didn't we change the hours of operation on the restaurant in the
Entertainment?
Heights? The Falmouth Heights restaurant, right on the water?
What did we change?
We changed the hours because the music was so loud and the association was complaining, and they wanted it moved back to 11 PM.
I never thought that you could ever have entertainment till 1. I mean,
Well,
I
don't
always
know. I
remembered
don't-
it had to
yeah.
be over by 11.
Well,
And
apparently,
besides, and it's never supposed to be heard outside the restaurant anyway. That's part of the, we've always had that as part of the requirement, that no sound can be heard outside the premises. And like Grumpy's, we had many public hearings on noise about Grumpy's. And they finally put in air conditioning, they put in new windows, they did a lot of different things because there are people who live in condos right near there. And we've not had a complaint in a very long time. So the noise cannot be heard outside. The windows always have to remain closed so that no one can hear the noise.
so so you're saying it's a matter of enforcing the policy rather than changing from the 1 AM to 11 PM?
Well, we can discuss that
Yeah,
when
that's,
it comes
yeah,
time
we
to
shouldn't be
renew the
talking about it
licenses.
now. The
or-
question now is, do we approve the license now, or do we hold a public hearing and then approve it?
That's where we need to go with this.
Well, I think we can approve it. I mean, but we do have to put standards in terms of when the entertainment has to stop, has to end. And the landfall, I know there are people that sit out on that porch. Maybe we do want to immediately ask them to advertise for the public hearing and hold the public hearing first and then grant the license. That would make more sense.
Yeah, it would to me.
And I actually think we shouldn't do any more discussion of it until we've declared the public hearing.
So how do we want to proceed?
Ask the town manager to set up the public hearing as soon as possible. I know it has to be advertised for so many days, has to go in the newspaper, so I think the soonest. Yeah.
Probably April 14th, then.
I hope they'll info. And maybe we could even, if, depending upon how it goes, we could put it on the agenda to also grant the license.
Well,
At the, so
I
if.
think you noted that we could we could renew the license, but still address the noise complaints on a separate basis.
We could, but we have to be careful if we renew the license, what we put in there for the time that entertainment has to end.
We could amend
Yeah.
the license, though, if we felt that the entertainment, if it came to the hearing and we felt that that was an issue, that could be one of the remedies that we apply. Would be an amendment of their license, would it not? I mean,
Yeah, we'd have
correct
to
me if
look
I'm
at the
wrong, but-
notifications for doing that. I don't know what the timelines are and all those. So if we held the public hearing, and if we granted the license with the entertainment ending at 11, and then held the public hearing, and then if we had to amend the license later, depending on the results of the public hearing.
Are we saying entertainment at 11 for all the places?
Well, I always thought it was 11. I never
Well,
knew
let's-
that entertainment went to 1
We're getting
o'clock.
we're getting off
I mean,
focus here,
I
folks.
don't know.
We have all alcoholic restaurant licenses seasonal. Do we want to renew
Oh, this
these?
is
Do we want
just
to
the
renew
liquor
some of them?
license. This is not the entertainment license.
Entertainment's license is further down.
The entertainment is further down the list, but right now, the all alcoholic restaurant
All right.
license, there are 3 seasonal
All
licenses
right,
that
I
we
move approval of all 3
Okay.
licenses.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, unanimous. The wine and malt restaurant license, seasonal.
Quix's Holes, I move approval.
We have a motion,
Second?
motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, unanimous. Common victualler license, seasonal.
Falmouth Clam Shack, Falmouth Yacht Club, Quix's Hole, The Landfall Restaurant, Seacoast Shores Association, Shuckers Raw Bar, and Silver Shores Santee. A motion to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous. Seasonal entertainment licenses.
Well, this is where we would then say that the landfall, the entertainment, but do you just say it for landfall, or is it because of the music after 11 PM?
Well,
I will move approval of Falmouth Yacht Club, Quicks Hole, Seacoast Shores, Shuckers Raw Bar, and Silver Shores Shanty.
second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and this is for everything
but
but
the
the landfall.
This one, yes.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous.
And I guess I would suggest, or I'm not sure if it's a motion, that requests that we schedule a hearing for April 14th to hear the complaints concerning the landfall restaurant, at which time we can
Deal
decide
with
a hearing.
with the
Entertainment license. And if Mr. Suso could also inform Mr. Crane, because he had requested
Yes.
information about that.
That way we're going to have a public hearing.
Right.
Last one, Sunday entertainment, Seacoast Shores Association.
Move approval.
We have a motion
Second?
and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous. Thank you. All right. Individual selectmen's reports. Ms. Moffett, you were asking about dates.
Yes.
So for April, we have town meeting on the 7th. The two meetings that we would potentially, the two dates that we'd be potentially meeting would be the 14th and the 28th.
Okay.
So potential bye-week on the 21st, although we could meet that week if there were other,
Holiday.
this is the
21st
21st.
holiday.
Oh, it is a
That's,
holiday, so
that's
we're
Patriots
definitely
Day,
not meeting.
So we're not
okay.
going to meet that day.
14 and 26.
So for April, we'll be meeting the 14th and the 28th. And then for May, it's going to be the 5th and the 19th, and potentially the 12th if we have to do a workshop or some other business.
So what was the first day?
What is the 12th?
The 5th?
Oh, the 5th. The 5th
What's
and the 19th?
12th of May?
Nothing right now, he said.
It's the 12th of, nothing
Is there a
special, it's not a
reason that
holiday.
It's dark and,
Just that we were doing every other week. That we had agreed to do first and third in general.
well, you're going back to back if you go the 28th of April and the 5th of May. But then.
Well, the problem is Memorial Day is a
Okay.
holiday, so the
All
5th
right.
and the 19th.
And election day is the 20th?
20th.
Correct. All right, any updates from individual selectmen?
Which one of these agendas back in April are you going to have for the manager's contract?
Well, we'll make
There's-
that decision next week when we actually discuss and vote it. So when we have the discussion next week, we can decide which date we'll do that.
The one thing I will pass out, I have looked at the board policies that we have on file already and made my suggestions as to what I would revise, what I'd keep, and what I'd eliminate. You can take a look at this, or you can use it to light a fire.
Thank you, Doug.
This is just my first crack at it, just to get us started on, and whether we do this as this board or whether the next board does it. I think the more we get started with it, the better.
And you know what? I agree with you, Doug, and I'll say the same thing that I said a few years ago. There was
We have
another
to
member of
keep
the board
balance.
who said something similar, that, well, there's going to be a new board in a few weeks, and quite honestly, we get paid to work every night that we meet. And unless we're going to decide to take the next month off, if there's time available on the agenda to work on things like policy, then there will be policy to work on, if that's what we need to do.
Well, if I may, with all due respect, that one board cannot bind another board, and so we could be spending a whole lot of time working on this, and then the new board comes and says, I don't like this policy, I want to do something else, or I want to eliminate it. So it's too close to the time. If it were 3 months from now, I would not have an issue, but we're talking 4 to 5 meetings left before we have a new board.
Except, as Mr. Duffy has previously told this board, that until a policy is changed or revoked, it remains in effect, and that is obvious from this rather extensive list that Doug provided us. So,
Take a look at that.
quite honestly, I don't consider a couple of weeks before an election to be a reason not to do our job.
Well, you're the chair, so you can do what you like in the next few weeks.
And maybe the first job is if people would just look at the ones that I had
It's
suggested.
all style, right?
Eliminate,
That might be a good way to start.
And so if we all agreed that we're going to
Let's see what we
eliminate
can
those, we could.
eliminate. Oh, you can't eliminate the one on banners, because we used to have
Yeah.
banners up on Main Street, and then we had a policy, no banners anymore on Main Street, so we can't eliminate that one.
Well, it's-
That's important to
It's
keep.
covered under the sign code.
What?
Isn't it covered under the sign code, though?
I don't think so. I
What is
think
that?
it's a selectmen's policy, no banners on Main Street.
I honestly don't know.
That's what it says.
But
Are
I'm
banners-
What the
not
rule is.
sure.
Are
But it's
banners
just-
flags?
Oh, gee, that's a good question. That is a good question.
Because I think flags are with the,
Did we approve this? Oh, I
Flags,
guess we did.
We did, and flags are
that's
part
right.
of the sign policy, although they may need to, we may need to have a new one signed. All right, so we'll, if there's time, like I said, we'll put this on an agenda, and again, it's up to the board.
this is good.
I
This
will,
is very
I'll
good.
put things on an agenda, that doesn't mean the board needs to take action.
You have such an open mind.
I try.
I know.
Any other updates from any other members of the board?
Well, I would just say that I'm sure you are all aware that Mr. Ron Beatty has petitioned, has filed, has filed petitions with 9 towns to ask the towns to withdraw from the Cape Cod Commission for a variety of reasons. And I want to say your son is a great advocate for the commission. It's working very hard. I know there are a number of town meetings. There's 2 meetings with the Board of Selectmen. There was a meeting with the Barnstable Town Council last week, which they postponed, but we're all trying to get around to these selectmen's meetings and town meetings to really speak to the value of the commission. And I know Falmouth, since the last couple of projects that they've worked with the commission on, I think have a much different view on the value that can be provided. So I just want to mention that those of you who believe, the other thing is, and I hate to say it publicly, is that you can't withdraw from the Cape Cod Commission because it takes a vote from the legislature. It also takes a vote of the county, not each town. Each town votes on the ballot, but they all vote at the same time, and it's a majority of the votes of all the towns. And then it has to be approved by the legislature, so it really can't be done this way, but, it is what it is, so just thought I'd mention that.
Anyone else?
I know, there is one thing I want to say. I want to congratulate the town manager for getting to the state senate, specifically the Senate president, the list of our infrastructure projects for this year for the bond bill. Because every year, we get a last-minute call saying, do you have any projects you want to put in the bond bill? And then we're all scrambling around trying to get, what can we do? What projects are they? So last year, I know Julia and I had this conversation and said, if you do it in advance, when you get the call to file your projects, you'll have them all ready. And I want you to know we have 3 or 4 projects that are approved in the bond bill to go for signature to the governor. And that's all because he did his job, and he got them all done and got them ready when the call came. They were filed. We're going to replace our 100-year-old water main on Main Street and repave that portion. Sandwich Road from Brick Hill Road to 151 is going to be redone, and Brick Hill Road to Sandwich Road from 28A is going to be redone. And there's a couple of other things I can't remember, but I mentioned to the Senate President the other day, because we had the budget forum with our legislators, and I said, thank you so much for putting those projects in. She's like, well, mate, you got them all together. I mean, why not? We got them, and there they are. Sometimes never even bothered to submit anything. So, Julian, thank you for a job well done.
You're welcome.
We are now in good shape. We just have to get the governor to sign.
Thank you, and members of the board as well.
Yeah.
Is that a done deal, or?
No, it's not a done deal
they're
till
on
the
the
governor
list.
signs, but they're on the list.
Does he
They're on
pick and
the,
choose what he signs?
Of course he does.
Oh, really?
well, the other thing I asked them to do was, couldn't they get the governor to stop withholding the last $100 million of Chapter 90 money. Every year, it's $300 million, and he always holds back the last $100 million, and nobody knows why. And what happens is that towns want to get their projects done in the spring, because you can't work in the summer, and then sometimes you can't do it in the fall. So, anyway, they just looked at me like, you know,
That's very
he
frustrating.
does it every year, so what are we gonna do? But anyway, it's out there. And I guess that's all I have to say. I estimated this meeting would end at 9:30. I'm not a good estimator. And now I'm getting silly, so I think I better stop talking.
I move adjournment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? We are
With beautiful surroundings, comfortable gathering spaces, and picturesque views, the campus of Atria Woodbriar offers the standard of senior living, long preferred by the most discerning older adults on Cape Cod. Atria Woodbriar Place, a new state-of-the-art building, offers independent and assisted living options with luxurious amenities and environmentally friendly design and construction. Atria Woodbriar, 389 Gifford Street, Falmouth, 508-495-5500.
Remember, WC Communications is your printing team. We are calm and cool under pressure. You can call us at 508-563-7366 or toll free at 1-800-696-7303.